Hello, everybody. Welcome to my backup. Please follow me here if you haven't. Appreciate y'all. Please like and share. Please, please, please. Would really appreciate that. Continuing to participate in the strike. So if you'd like to support the channel, my Cash App is in my bio. Always looking for subscribers, but since this is the backup, I would never ask you to double up, but please feel free. Hey, Bunny. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Colorado Mom, nice to see you. You have to type in all caps. Mark, do you need some attention? Need a hug? We have a few things that we have to cover. There is so much in the news. I like to try to, prepare like an outline a little bit for these lives so I can try to stay organized. It really helps me stay on topic. There's so much. I've got like 4 pages of stuff, and I have my Slava Ukraine flag. So we'll be talking about Ukraine funding this evening because I think it's important as we get into some things. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I really appreciate you all being here, and I think it's necessary that we all have good, lively debate. I did a video early today that it really surprises me, or I should say, it doesn't surprise me that people's lives have been dedicated to just taking down lives. And I want to thank in advance my mods. I've said this before, I have the best mods there are. I know everybody says that, but mine are the best. Primarily because they look out for each other and they look out for this live and they appreciate the content, and I could not thank you guys enough. So thank you in advance. Appreciate y'all. Okay, let's jump in. We have a few things to talk about. There's a special election in New York that's happening today. It's to fill George Santos's seat. It's in Nassau on Long Island. It's like the first district after you cross into Long Island from New York City, from the Queens, that area. There's a Democrat and Republican looking to fill that seat. Remember, the Republicans hold that seat, so it's a great opportunity for the Dems to flip it. That race is close, but they all are going into it. The Democrat had a lot of money and was leading in the polls. Take that for what you will. But I think it's going to be an interesting indicator as to whether or not the GOP can hold on to this particular seat. As a reminder, currently, the Republicans hold a 3-seat majority. So they can't lose this seat because then it's down to 2. And we already know that they've made one effort to try to impeach Mayorkas, and that failed. They're going to try again tonight. The reason that they can do that was procedural. So there has to be a certain margin of bipartisan support one way or another. And that magic number was, I think it was 3 or 4. So what Mike Johnson did when he knew the vote was going to fail, he asked one of his members of his caucus to vote to not support impeachment so that they could bring the bill back up again. It's an administrative tool, which is the reason why they can bring it back up again. Steve Scalise, who is the Republican majority, one of the majority leaders in the House, is back from his cancer treatment, and I hope he's doing okay. Cancer sucks. So we'll see how that vote goes tonight. But that's, again, their goal. Do they have the numbers? We'll see. So that special election is really, really important, as we can see. And if the Democrats flip that seat, then that majority is down to 2. And it will be, well, it's already virtually impossible for Mike Johnson to bring anything forward for legislation that's responsible and reasonable. So we'll see. So there's that. So speaking of legislation, the Senate passed that bipartisan funding bill for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan yesterday, 70 to 29. So 22 Republicans joined Democrats to vote for that. Now, the margins in the House, I should say the margins in Congress, with it being so divided, and the fact that it was that big a margin, I mean, 70 votes, you never see that unless it's for a justice appointment. Typically, that's amazing. So the pressure's on Republicans in the House. So what that tells them is that a large chunk of their party believes that we should be funding our allies. And then that leads me into this craziness that is some of the language that Trump has uttered about NATO, saying that he would pull the U.S. out of NATO, which is exactly what Vladimir Putin wants to hear and exactly what our allies don't want to hear. I found some audio, and I think it's important that we listen to it because this is the shit that is playing right into Putin's hands. So this is Trump speaking on his plans with NATO.
Said you got to pay out. They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
I don't know if you caught that at the end, but I would encourage Russia to do whatever the hell they want. Yeah, and I find it funny of all people to say pay your bills when it was Donald Trump that attributed $8.4 trillion to our deficit during his administration and was constantly asking Congress to raise the debt limit, right? Also, we know Trump doesn't pay his contractors, doesn't pay his lawyers, doesn't pay people who work for his campaign, doesn't pay his debts, files for bankruptcy 6 times. So for anybody there to stand on his freaking pedestal and say, unless you pay up. By the way, NATO pays their fair share. Another lie, another bullshit lie. That's just dangerous. That's just woefully dangerous. I mean, it's beyond dangerous. So I guess MAGA, I've already seen it spamming the chat. MAGA, you have to ask yourself a question. Are you pro-Putin or pro-America? It's really simple. And I think I know where most of you land. You're pro-Putin. You might want to check yourself on that. What else? So Alan Dershowitz, who, by the way, was one of Trump's attorneys during the impeachment hearings, has come out and railed against special counsel Robert Hur for that pluff piece that he did on the Joe Biden investigation, saying that there are several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's. Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, would present serious aggravating facts. Overall, the former Harvard law professor gives her a D- grade with, quote, great inflation for the report. So even the people in Trump's orbit are saying this was a bullshit piece, which is what it was. Absolute bullshit. Okay, so in other news, so we know that the RNC is already broke, and they're already running out of money, and they're already hemorrhaging. Their leadership is failing them. Ronna McDaniel's out. The RNC doesn't have any cash. They can't advertise in some swing states. They are a pathetically run organization and have been for a long time. So think about this. They, aside from 2016, they've lost elections every year since. They've lost elections they've lost off-year elections. They've lost midterms. They lost the White House. They've lost the House and the Senate. They should have had a 20 to 25 seat majority in the House after 2022, and no. So poor leadership. So Donald Trump's answer to that, because of course he thinks it's his party, which it is. He wants to have an election denier. His name is Michael Whatley. He is an election denier. He's been the chair of the North Carolina RNC, and his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, wants those two manning the RNC. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I would support that because what will it do? It'll turn off independent voters. It'll turn off independent donors. It'll turn off conservative donors. They're not going to want this bullshit. Let it go. He just wants people in place to help him flip elections and cheat again. That's why. Yep, that's why. I have a massive list here. I'm not sure if you can see. You can't see it. Massive list of things. So what else? Like I said, they're going to try to impeach Mayorkas again tonight. The Senate bill passed. Oh, this is funny. I saw this report from Fox News. That 68% of people who chose ivermectin, who used it, are suffering from long-term bowel and urinary incontinence. There you go. 68% of those people who decided that they knew more than the science did. So that's fun. That's really fun. And back to this whole NATO thing, I think it's really, really important that we remember history, because the America First statement, one of the reasons that, history is important and we call this shit out, one of the reasons that people, when we hear MAGA say, why don't you think, why shouldn't we make America great again? It's because the question is always asked, when was America great for the poor? When was America always great for women or the BIPOC community or the LGBTQA community, things like that. It's because it wasn't, and it hasn't always been. Similarly with that America First statement. So people on the right have no idea where that statement comes from. The statement America First, sure, it sounds all pure and all innocent, but history and context matters. America First was first adopted in our discussions post World War One, or right around the time of World War One. Woodrow Wilson liked this isolationist policy, didn't want us involved anywhere else but America. And again, sure, you can sit there and think, oh yeah, it's a great idea. Why wouldn't we support that? But because we turned a blind eye to global affairs and we're not interested in foreign policy, that led to the reconstruction of the Reich and the dawn of the Mustache Man. So that's the history behind America First. And that's exactly what he's saying now. We already know that he likes to recite things to the Mustache Man, including, poisoning the blood. We know that he's a fan of his. We know that he's quoted other elements of that era in our history. So America First is rooted in hate. It's rooted in bigotry. It's rooted in anti-Semitism. And it certainly has connections between what the Mustache Man said and what Trump wants to do. So again, America First. America First goes back to Woodrow Wilson, isolationism, and that's what he's calling for again. But the thing that I literally just heard about this, and I think that we have to cover this. For those of you who have not ever bothered to investigate what Project 2025 is, or what Agenda 47 is, there is a discussion about the heavy-handed approach to crime and punishment that DJT wants. So he's talked about these internment camps in our country, basically rounding up people. The houseless, he says. Well, I'll let you tell you. Well, his own words. We'll get back to it.
Ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that. We'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified. But we'll open up our cities again, make them livable and make them beautiful. Ban urban camp.
So the concept there is that you open up large parcels of land like tent cities and give the houseless people options, right, for treatment. Otherwise what? Lock them up? So houseless people include veterans. So MAGA, you might be sitting there cheering for that, but as a reminder, that would include veterans. It gets worse than that, though. There's reporting in The Atlantic. The title of the article is Trump's Knock-on-Door Deportation Plan. And I would encourage you guys to read it. There's one section that says Trump has repeatedly promised, if reelected, he will pursue the largest domestic deportation operation in history. Inherently, such an effort would be politically explosive. That's because any mass deportation program would naturally focus on the largely minority areas of big Democratic-leaning cities where many undocumented immigrants are settled, such as LA, Houston, Chicago, New York, and Phoenix. Quote, what this means is the communities that are heavily Hispanic or Black, those marginalized communities are going to be living in absolute fear of a knock on the door, whether or not they themselves are undocumented. What he's describing is a terrifying police state, the pretext of which is immigration. That is fascism on full display. Whether you're a citizen or not, you could literally get the knock on the door. So again, MAGA, that's what you want. That's the guy that you're voting for. A guy that is going to be in court this week to find out more about his election interference case in New York. A guy this week that is not denying his crimes, only claiming immunity from his crimes. A guy that's essayed a woman. A guy that's defrauded cancer charities. Do I need to continue? That's where we are. That's the person that you've chosen to lead your party. That's the guy who's already come out and said that I will lock people up. I will deport you. I won't ask questions. I'll just do it. a, what do you call it? The largest domestic deportation operation in history. Red state forces, he's calling it. Red state forces. And you're all good with that. Well, that leads us to our topic of the evening. You find Colin Kaepernick's constitutionally protected rights offensive. You find women standing up for bodily autonomy offensive. You find red cups at Starbucks offensive, but you're okay with this because that's free speech, right? Yeah, it's interesting that you would feel that way. I'm not surprised, though. I'm genuinely not surprised because that's where we are. That's what's happened. This is the end of the Republican Party in America. This is the end of conservatism as we know it because your party has been corrupted and captured and held captive by the twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster. Is that what you want? Now, MAGA, do you want a president to have immunity? Because that's the question I have for you. Do you want a president to have immunity? It's a simple question. So I'd like you to answer that question. That's the question I want you to answer tonight when you jump in the box. I think it's, I think if you're pro Putin, I mean, if you stand by what Trump has said about NATO, saying that he would literally just say, I don't give a shit, I haven't paid your money. Putin, go ahead, knock yourself out. If you want to hear the quote again, I can play it. But that's where we're at. What is that? Please like and share the live, friends. Would really appreciate that. Please, when you hit share, you can just copy the link, and that helps pump out the algorithm. Would really appreciate that. Let's try to get some traffic in here tonight because this is an important conversation. And Trump supporters, why are you so offended by the littlest things like rainbow flags and Disney and Barbie, and yet this doesn't bother you? Interesting. Not surprising, but interesting, I must say. Hey, Mark. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hey, how are you, sir? I haven't.
I'm I'm very well.
Um, yeah, when I think of America first, I reminded of the fact that Anne Frank, the one that wrote that diary, uh, he was on a ship and on the shores of Florida, and was turned away because of isolationism,
That's right. That's
and
right.
then she later died in a concentration camp.
That's exactly right.
And
I mean,
that's what.
that's you're right. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, I didn't. I know I didn't interrupt you, sir. Go ahead.
No, you're right. So again, people not understanding history, and that's why it's important. That's why context matters because people hear the term America first, and people say, "What's wrong with wanting to put America first?" There's nothing wrong with wanting America to be better, but you have to understand context. So when we have a former president of the United States says America first, we know what he's referencing. We know it. We know that he wants isolationism. We know that he wants a dictatorship. And we can draw a straight line back to early 20th century and the connections between the rise of the Reich. That's where it came from.
No, it I just can't believe they would want him as a candidate again after everything that he did. A lot of the most offensive things that I heard. Oh, he's never going to do that. He's never going to do that, and he did it. He kept families apart with his Muslim ban, the travel ban. Not to Saudi Arabia, not to the countries that give him money. No, he to the other Muslim countries, and they had families that were unable to see each other for years during his administration because of that ban, and then he takes kids away from their mothers, just to be cruel. And then they have his Stephen Miller testify before Congress. Well, the cruelty is the point, right? We're being cruel on purpose to make them not come here. You know,
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean that. No, you're right. I mean, Stephen Miller has talked about that, and we already know that from Project 2025. And Agenda 47, Mark, that what Trump wants are loyalists. He doesn't want civil servants. He doesn't want people who understand government. He wants loyalists, which is why he wants an election denier and his daughter-in-law running the RNC. He's talked about that. He's talked about eliminating the FEC, the FTC, the FCC, all those kinds of things. He's talked about literally gutting the government and replacing them with loyalists to do exactly what he wants, as opposed to what the Constitution dictates. I don't know if we can explain it any better to that, but MAGA doesn't care. They think they want a dictatorship. That's what they think they want, but they don't understand what that means, sadly.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say thank you for your lives. You're very informative and
Thanks, Mark.
giving people the truth and consequences. You may not like everything about Biden. That's okay, but if he upholds our democracy, and I can give you a perfect example that if he had lost the 2020 election, he would have called up Donald Trump and congratulated him and just said, let's do better next time, Democrats. He would not
exactly
have,
right.
Raised a fuss, a tantrum, if you will.
That's exactly right. That's the key. And the same thing would happen now. Even if he lost in 2024, he would do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Because, he actually believes in the Constitution and the history that makes our country, which is the peaceful transfer of power, is important. Elections are important, and letting everybody be heard is important.
That's correct. Well said, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime, bro. Good talking to you. See you later. Mark's right, and I saw this question come by. So if you read Project 2025, I know it's a lot of reading. It's one of those things that I think it's important. There's a 50-page summary, but one of the tenets is consolidating power. They call it the unitary executive, and it basically gives so by design of our Constitution, the executive doesn't have as much power as the legislative branch. Ultimately, the legislative branch, Congress, has more power than the executive branch. That's by design. Not that the president doesn't hold unique powers, but overall. So the idea behind the unitary executive is to give the executive branch more power. So a lot of the three-letter agencies, if you read 2025, those are some of the things that Trump wants to do away with. DOJ, FBI, the FEC, which is the Federal Elections Commissions. Now, why do you think he'd want to do away with that? The FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. That's an organization that determines our treaties and who we have treaties with. And that's the organization that monitors those treaties to make sure that both sides are holding up their end. And then the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission. Now, again, we talked earlier about how history has a way of repeating itself. Joseph Goebbels, look up that guy. He was the propaganda minister for Nazi Germany, and they literally controlled the airwaves. They told, that's what Russia does too, Russian state media. So that's what we're talking about. And that's why I think it's dangerous is the only word I can really use for people unwilling to read as to what it is that this guy wants. And he knows, and his party knows that his followers won't read it. They won't. They won't invest the time to understand what we're talking about here. It's disturbing. It's just genuinely disturbing. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't want that to be. How can you sit here and say that you don't want government telling you what to do and literally be supporting a guy who has told you flat out that he's going to be a dictator and he's going to tell you what to do? Do you think he's only going to be telling Democrats what to do? Do you think he's only going to be telling liberals what to do? By the way, the rise of fascism, you could look back through history. Any fascistic state, the first people that they go after are the ones that they consider a threat. So conspiracy theorists and those that are right-wing militia, you're a threat to a dictator. So they're coming after you first. It ain't the dumb. It ain't the Dems. It's y'all, as you like to say. But yeah, that's where we're at. Good evening, my friend.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. It's gonna be a night. Okay.
It's gonna be a night.
Everybody out there in Fact Still Matters land, listen very carefully. I am in no mood today. So, Misinformation and hate speech will not be tolerated tonight. If somebody is in the box, whether they are a Republican or a Democrat, I don't care. You are to be respectful to them. They are to be respectful to facts. He will be respectful to them. We match energy. So if you're being rude to them, I don't care if you're on Trump's team or Biden's team. Be respectful to whoever's talking in the box. Okay? Any misinformation, we will mute you or block you, depending on what it is. Tap the screen. Where'd the sticker go?
I moved it. It's all good. But again, we are
Okay.
participating in CoinCon. I think we finally have the
We're
gifts
participating
turned
in
off.
boycott. It's finally turned off in the sticker web. Please, his cash apps and his bio. Please support over there. And if you have any questions, all of us mods have our little thing next to our names. We will answer any questions, but again, we will match energy. So
I want to answer a question while you're here, Mickey, because somebody said, "Who gets to
yeah,
decide what misinformation is?" There's a way. There's a way, Cartman. This is how you do it.
it's
If you come
called
up and
facts.
yeah, well, if you come up and you have a question, if you say, "I have a question about something, you can help me understand," as opposed to you coming up here and saying, "This is fact," that would be misinformation. Like for
Yeah,
example, if you still think that the 2020 election was stolen, that's misinformation because it wasn't.
correct.
If you came up and said, "Hey, Fax, I have a question about the 2020 election. Can you help me understand something?" Then we have a conversation. That's the difference.
Correct. You come up here and say, "Hey, I have a question about the indictments, or I have a question about, what's going on in Georgia." By the way, I'm in Georgia. So if you have a question on what's going on in Georgia and Fannie Willis and all of that and things like that, you have questions. This is what we're here for. We want to have conversations. That's the
Right.
whole point of this. We're not
Exactly.
looking to change your minds. We don't care if you're voting for Trump. We would like to know why. We would like to know what
I
what
care.
aids.
I care if you're voting
Well,
for him.
I mean, at this point, there are certain things that we're not going to change your mind, but if you have daughters, I would like to know how you make that in your head make sense. Or if you're a veteran, I would like to in my head, I don't understand how a veteran could do that. Those are questions that we'd like to talk to you about. But if you're
Right.
going to come up here screaming like we've had some of you guys do, it's not happening. If
Right.
there's a woman up here and you're going to be misogynistic, I'm telling you now, Fax won't even have a chance to get his finger on the button. I'll kick you so fast, it's that kind of day.
It
So
is.
you call any woman up here a name, you'll be gone. Period.
That's right.
End of
That's right.
story. So,
That's right. Well said, Nikki. Like I
but
said
if
before,
you're a
I've
Republican
got the
and
best mods.
I'm not going to call you a name. You have the right to vote who you want to. That's the whole part of a democracy.
Correct. Well said. I appreciate you,
Repub-
friend. So
I appreciate you too.
the mods are on it, and again, I want to thank you guys. Again, we know that the conversations can get heated. There is one set of facts. Again, like I said earlier, if you have questions about something, then ask. But don't come in here and say, "Well, this is this," because that's misinformation. We're not going to spread
Yes.
misinformation about COVID. We're not going to spread information about election lies. We're not going to spread
None of this Jeffrey
none of that
Epstein
shit.
thing either.
Yeah,
None of it.
it's
I
exactly.
don't want to hear it on his side, any side. I don't care. The dude's dead. We're over it, done with. I don't care.
Since
Neither
this is
do any
not
of us.
since this isn't my first rodeo, when I've learned when somebody comes up and says it's a proven fact, I can guarantee you it's not. So
Yes.
if you
And
if
if
you
you
want
do
to,
have a proven fact, please bring it with you.
well said.
We're more than happy to look at something. If you
Yeah,
have it proven, bring it. But don't
yeah,
say, well, look it up on the internet. No, we will not do your homework for you.
that's right.
Period.
So
End of story.
the mods are on it. So thank you, Nikki. I appreciate you, friend.
We are the mod squad, and we will protect him and his life.
Thank you very much. I feel safe.
Okay, tap the screen. Let's get up to 30,000 by the time the next guy comes up. Yes,
Appreciate you.
YouTube. But Bunny said YouTube and TikTok are not legitimate sources.
Thank you. Well said.
Bye.
Well said. Bye, friend. Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about this before, you guys, and I think it's really important that we have this conversation again about what are facts. There's only one set of facts. Like you can walk into the grocery store and there's cereal. There's a whole bunch of varieties of cereal, but cereal is a thing. Facts are a thing. Opinions are different than facts, right? So you cannot come up here. The burden of proof falls to the person who makes the claim. If you say this is what happened, then I'm going to ask you, okay, where's your proof? You can't say look it up. You can't say I saw it on YouTube. Okay, then tell me how and where, what the source was, so we can learn together. And if you're willing to have an open mind, look, I know that there's a lot of people in the MAGA world on this app that would love to prove me wrong. Do it. I have no problem being wrong. None whatsoever. None. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. But what we notice about MAGA is that you're just unwilling to learn. Even when confronted with the truth, even when people in your own party or your own universe are telling you something, you still don't believe it. So when we say that that's cult-like behavior, that's what we mean. You turn a blind eye to everything that Donald Trump has done, but yet you create scenarios in your head that Joe Biden is suddenly guilty of something. I mean, aren't you embarrassed yet? I would just like to know. Like, are you not embarrassed yet? Because I don't know why you wouldn't be. It's weird. It's really, really weird. But that's not for me to figure out. That's for you guys to figure out. Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hey, um, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Um, so I don't really have anything about your live. So the
Okay.
only thing I got to ask is why are the Democrats so scared for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to debate Biden?
They aren't. I'm not scared.
No, okay, but the Democratic Party does not want Robert F. Kennedy to debate Biden.
Well, it's not that, Robert. You have to qualify for debates, and he's not polling high enough. That's how it works.
Well, I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I do like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I think
Okay.
he would.
Why?
I think he would because his policies, his
What what policy?
he tells the truth about Ukraine
Yeah,
and everything that's what's
wait,
going
Robert,
on.
Robert. Remember what we
Yes.
were just talking about misinformation. Okay, you can't come up here and say that Robert Kennedy speaks the truth about Ukraine. I want you to give me a specific about what Robert Kennedy said, and then you and I can determine if that's the truth.
Okay, so so let's talk about foreign policy for a second.
Nope, we're not. We're going to talk about Ukraine since you brought it up. So again,
Okay,
you
that's foreign
you
policy.
I know, but we're going to make it specific to Ukraine. So, what did he say about Ukraine that you believe is the truth, Robert? And I'm going to ask you to back it up with evidence. Okay?
Okay, so so let's talk about so you let's Ukraine is not a NATO country.
You're right. It's not.
Okay, so United States is trying to portray NATO as a
In your opinion, Robert. In your
okay,
opinion,
okay. So the way this started is that Putin did not want NATO to become. I mean, did not want Ukraine to become a NATO country because Putin did not want a NATO country in his backyard.
so he invaded. He's already got NATO countries in his backyard, Robert.
Huh?
He's already got NATO countries in his backyard.
No, no. Ukraine's not a NATO country.
I know it's not, but he already has NATO countries in his backyard. No
Okay, so
way.
he didn't want NATO. He didn't want Ukraine to be a NATO country
How do you know this, Robert?
because I study history. Okay,
Okay,
so
okay.
o-
So hold on, slow down, one step at a time. Okay,
okay,
so you think that justifies Vladimir Putin invading NATO, a sovereign nation?
yeah, because he didn't want NATO in his backyard.
That's not what I asked you. You think it's justified him going in there and unaliving innocent civilians because he didn't want NATO next door?
Yes. Okay.
Really?
Okay. So
So
let's. Okay. So
wait, hold on, wait.
all right.
We'll slow down. Hold on a second. So then you are pro Putin.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Really?
Oh, no, I'm not pro Putin. How can I be pro Putin? It's just
Well,
okay.
you're defending his actions. I asked you if he was justified. You said he was. So that would be you're
No.
defending Putin.
Okay, so Vladimir Putin told Ukraine do not m- become a member of NATO, and he tried
Why
to.
Vladimir Putin doesn't because it doesn't control Ukraine. He's not the president of Ukraine. They're a sovereign nation, Robert.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you something. A serious question.
Now answer my question. Vladimir Putin does not control Ukraine, Robert. Why does Vladimir Putin get to tell Ukraine what to do?
Because he didn't want him in his backyard.
I don't care. Do we get to tell Canada what to do?
Okay. So let me ask you something. If
Robert,
okay, so
Robert,
let
Robert, do we
okay.
get
Wait,
do
hold
we
on.
oh
You
wait,
won't
no
let
no
me
no no
talk.
Robert,
You keep
Robert.
cutting me off.
You're right, I am. Do we get to tell Canada what to do?
Okay. So that's my next question.
Robert,
If
answer my
if
question.
it's
Robert, do we get to
oh
tell
my gosh.
Canada what to do? Do we get to tell Canada what to do? Yes or
No.
no?
Okay.
Okay.
So let me
Why
ask
are
you.
we in Ukraine? Why are we in
Okay.
Ukraine, Robert?
So let me
What?
ask you a question. Can I ask you a question?
1 second, I will. Why are we defending Ukraine? Why are we supporting them? Why?
Because it's all bullshit. It's just all
No, but
about
why?
money going in.
No,
Okay,
but why? Robert,
can I ask you a
Rob,
question?
in a second, you got to answer questions here. We're trying to learn something. Why are we supporting Ukraine? Why?
Because it's just all bullshit. It's money laundering, all that bullshit.
So it's not. So if you don't know, Robert, then just say I don't know, because you don't know
Okay,
why we're there.
okay. So can I ask you a
Do you not
question now?
know? When I'm done with this premise here, hang on a second. If you don't know, just say I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna say I don't know. Just to ask you a
Okay, so let me
question.
tell you. Let me tell you why then. There's a thing called the Budapest Memorandum. Ever heard of it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, what
But
is it? What is it? What is it, Robert? What is the
okay.
Budapest Memorandum?
As far as I understand, is that okay? What happened is that when the Soviet Union dissolved, NATO promised not to move forward west from Germany.
Nope, not true. Why specifically? What's the Budapest Memorandum? Specifically, what is it? If you don't know, Robert, then just say I don't
Okay,
know.
I
And use
don't
this
know. Okay, can I ask
Okay,
you a question
so
now?
when I'm done telling you what it is, so at the end of the Soviet Union, you're right. During that time, Ukraine had developed a massive nuclear arsenal, and we had negotiated ourselves. Russia and the UK decided, look, Ukraine, if you give up your nukes, we will defend you if you're invaded. And guess what? Russia agreed too, right? So Russia invades Ukraine. Therefore, because of the Budapest Memorandum, the United States and the UK and other countries as well honored the agreement, which is why we're defending them. Do you understand that, Robert?
Okay, yes, but when the Soviet Union dissolved, NATO promised that they would move west past Germany,
No, not true,
And
Robert.
the United States kept moving
Robert,
west past
not tr-
Germany.
it's not United States, Robert. It's NATO. Okay, and you're wrong about that. Russia does not get to dictate who belongs to NATO or not. What you're doing right now, Robert, is you're allowing yourself to believe what Tucker Carlson tells you. Okay,
No, I'm
so this is
not.
what Yes, you are, Robert. Yes, you are. Okay, yes, you are. So
No,
everything you said in this live in our conversations so far tells me that you are pro Russia.
I'm not pro Russia. I'm trying to
Yes,
make
you
a
are.
statement, but you won't
You're
let
pro
me
Russia
talk.
because you're
You
pro
won't let
Russia.
me ask you a question.
Ask a question.
Okay, so if by any chance the Chinese government was able to set up a military base in Mexico, what do you think the United States would do?
Not invade Mexico.
They wouldn't allow a Chinese military base in Mexico. They would not allow
Robert,
a Russia
that's just a
base
stupid
in
argument.
Canada.
It's just a stupid argument because it's not going to happen. So, Robert, once again, why are you pro Russia, Robert?
I'm not pro Russia. Is the
You
thing
are.
is
So you don't
okay?
have it. So Robert, wait. So if you asked me a question. So if you're not pro Russia, then you have to be in full support of us supporting Ukraine, right?
No, I'm not. Okay,
Then you're
so
pro Russia.
okay,
Then you're
so
pro Russia
okay,
and you're in a
so
cult. Good night. You're pro Russia. You're pro Russia and you're in a cult. How the fuck can, at this point in our lives Can we literally have people that are, that's what pro-Russia, that's what Russian propaganda does right there. Those are the talking points. I knew the question about Canada and Chinese bases was coming. I knew it. It's predictable. It's predictable. Exactly. Robert, you got to check yourself, bro. Hold on, Dagny. If you can't discuss things, you don't even let the guy talk. How do you expect to get anywhere? So, Dagny, come up in the box. We'll talk about it. Come on up. Request. Come on up and join. It's not about that. It's about it's rhetoric. It's part of. Do you first of all, for any of you who thinks that the argument, because I'm not willing to answer a question about China setting up a base in Canada or Mexico, that's a stupid ass conversation. That is just ridiculous. It's beneath all of you. You think Canada is going to allow Mexico or China to set up a base there? You think Mexico is? Give me a break. It's the stupidest argument. That's what pro-Putin sympathizers do. You try to pivot off the conversation. Busted. All of you. You should be embarrassed. You call yourself American? You guys should be embarrassed. Please continue to like and share, you guys. We'd really appreciate that.
Oh,
Hi, Chris. How are you?
so I didn't mean to. I was like, I got a little out of control tapping the screen.
Oh, it's all
I
good.
didn't
I
mean
got
to.
you.
I love you. You're
Thank
great.
you. Thank you very much. I appreciate
You have
it.
a good
Have a good
day.
night. Thanks. Bye. That happens a lot. Please continue to like and share, guys. Really appreciate that. It's okay, Chris. No apologies necessary. Hey, Lillian, how are you tonight? Lillian? Hi, Lillian. Lillian. Lillian going once. Lillian going twice. Thank you, Lillian. Appreciate you. Robert, you're not coming back. You're a pro-Putin sympathizer. You should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed that you're pro-Putin. Anybody that is pro-Putin, just leave. Pack your shit, move to Russia. They'll take you in. Seriously. Ridiculous. I mean, what's happened to you? You guys consider yourself patriots? What a joke. Hey, Pat. Whoa, you got some background noise.
Hi.
Hey, Pat, how are you?
Sorry, give me 1 second to stop the
Are you
background
driving?
noise.
Are you,
I'm off the road right now.
why do I hear, are you
Well,
driving?
no, I'm not. Not now. I All right.
You're driving.
I
Just
was
got to. Are you driving?
and listening to you,
You're
but now
driving,
I'm.
man. You're driving. You're driving. Okay. Just call back when you're stopped. I'll have a conversation with you. It's okay. We'll have that conversation, but just not while you're driving. Just pull over and stop so we can talk. Okay?
Hi.
Uh, Hi. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I want to have a nice political conversation with you.
Okay. Fair enough. What do you want to talk about?
I have no idea. So I'm looking at your banner right here. It says Trump supporters be like, that's offensive, and oh, this freedom of speech, man. So what is your political view? I want to know.
Okay, well, that's not how it works. First of all, let me level set a few things. So if you're going to make a claim about something, the burden of proof is on you. So if you make a statement, you got to be willing to back it up, not with just go look it up. And we don't answer questions with other questions. So no whataboutisms. Okay. So I'm more of a progressive leftist. How about you?
I am more of an independent. Like I kind
Okay.
of like to pick and choose kind of like from different parties. Like I feel like a lot of people
Okay.
have good ideas.
Who did you vote for in 2020?
I did not vote in 2020.
Why not?
I didn't want to.
Okay. So who are you planning on voting for in 2024?
I don't want to.
That's not what I asked.
I don't want to. If it's going to be Trump and Biden, I don't want to.
So if you had to, who would you vote for?
Oh God. I don't. They're both so awful.
So, but why is it so hard to choose, especially as a
It's
woman?
it's hard to
Why is
choose
it?
because it's
Why?
not that it's because that Biden is so it's his mental. Like you see
What
him
about? Are
fall.
you a doctor? Are you a doctor?
Of course not. I just
Okay.
see
How
him
how do you know?
falling and slurring
Well, so
and
so where do you? So let's unpack that a second. Is it V or Vine?
You can call me V or Vi, either or.
Okay. What would you prefer?
V.
V. Okay. So V, where do you get your news from? So when you say you see these videos, where do you watch them from?
So, after the Trump escapade, I kind of fell off of watching a lot of political things because
Okay.
everything
So
kind of went downhill after that.
all right,
And
let's stop monologuing for just a second, V. Okay, let's talk. I asked you specifically. You said you saw videos of Joe Biden doing these things. Where did you watch those videos? From what source?
okay, so there are like videos on social media, like TikTok and
Okay,
Facebook and
so Facebook. So is it safe to say what you saw was a snippet?
hmm.
I'm just,
Possibly, yeah,
it's a,
possibly.
okay,
Because it's not
I
like,
want you to,
because I'm going
right,
to
I
be
want you to
honest.
answer sincerely.
I'm
Okay,
going to be honest with you. It's not like I sat here and researched the whole dang thing.
okay, so here you go. So this is my point, right? Because if you want to go case by case, would you agree that out of context, it's not necessarily fair to pass judgment on somebody?
It is not.
Okay, but you just did that.
It's just that, like, everybody is saying that. Well, I guess I can't say that. That's stupid.
The reason
I just don't want him to be mentally ill and be a president. Like, that's not. And
okay,
like, there's
but V,
allegations, like not legal allegations, but there's been like talk of him like saying weird things about children.
okay, so V, is that your bar? Is that your bar?
Is that my bar?
Yeah, meaning that if it were true and these allegations were proven about Joe Biden, that you wouldn't support him, obviously.
I wouldn't. No, I would not. If it were
Okay,
true about
okay,
Joe Biden,
okay,
I would not support him.
okay. So then you're okay with Donald Trump sexually abusing a woman?
No, I don't like him either.
Okay, okay. So then I guess what you have are rumor and innuendo about Joe Biden, never proven, never proven at all. What you have are actual being found liable under the law of Donald Trump as saying a woman.
So,
So wait
okay,
a minute. Wait, hold on. So what's more important to you? Rumor and innuendo or fact?
facts. The facts are more
Okay.
important to me.
Okay, good. Well, hold on one second. So
Okay, go on.
if the facts are important to you, and we know that Donald Trump is found liable under the law for essaying a woman, had to pay $88 million for defrauding her. We have the access to Hollywood tape where he bragged about grabbing women by the genitals. We know that we know that he's had sexual fantasies about his own daughter.
And he was
All
on
the
Epstein's client list.
I'm sorry, what?
He was on Epstein's client list.
Well, we don't know if he was on next. I'm not going to make that. That's a little bit of misinformation. I want to be careful with that. I'm not going to say that he's on Epstein's client list. I don't know. We know that they were friends, though. So
But
again, wait,
okay.
hold on. So
Was it released?
hold on. What I'm trying to do for you, V, is to give you an idea of why it's so dangerous for you to believe snippets of information. But that's what you did. You came up here, you admitted it, and I really appreciate you being honest about that because a lot of people don't. But we have all these things that we know about Donald Trump. We also know that he's been indicted. We also know that he's got 91 charges facing him. He tried to overthrow the government. These things are real. So again, if you have to make a choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I understand you may not like Joe Biden, but why would you vote for Donald Trump?
I would not.
Good.
I would just not
Good.
do it.
That's fine because there are other options. You don't have to vote for either one. I think if it's important to you, if the facts are important to you, and you do believe in democracy, and you want our country to progress forward, so that your rights.
I really
Okay,
do. I want all
good.
bull crap to stop. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I stopped. Like, I used to follow politics. I really did back in 2020. It is 2024 now, and I have not really looked at anything political because I am ashamed. and
Yeah.
just
Well,
pinching
what
my
are you
nose
ashamed of?
and shaking my head because of all the hate, the spike in racism, the spike
Yeah.
in sexism, people ripping hijabs off people's
But where
heads. Like, oh,
where does that
come
come
on.
from, though? But where do you think that hate and racism comes from? Where is
The
that?
hate and
Where is
racism
that
came
primarily?
from the stigma and the face of our president. Like,
Right.
he
But
makes all these claims and says all these negative and xenophobic and
who
racist
does?
things. Trump.
Who does?
Trump.
Yeah, he
Trump
does.
did.
Once
And it
once
made it
again,
okay out in our society. He's the face of our country, so it's making it
that's right.
okay for everybody else. That's just
That's right.
basic psychology. But like,
That's right.
still, like, I'm just shaking my
So
head and I'm just disappointed and depressed about like the world. And then like I was actually for Joe Biden after Trump. After Trump,
good.
I was actually excited that Joe Biden
But
was running.
but
I
you
was
didn't vote
excited.
for him. But you didn't vote for him.
I was no, I did not. I did not vote.
Okay. So your excitement is irrelevant, B, unless you go and vote.
The reason why I don't vote is because,
So you don't vote at all?
huh?
You don't vote at all?
I'm thinking about it.
So you've never voted?
No.
I'm sorry then. Please vote. Have a good night. That's a waste of my time. My God. Good evening, sir.
Well,
How are you? How's it going?
I am okay. Did I hear at the end of all that that person doesn't vote?
You did.
Oh,
You did.
so
So, go ahead.
I don't even know how to. Hold on a second. I normally don't say this, but if you don't participate in democracy, if you don't do the basics of your civic duties, which includes voting, by the way, right? It's a right that you should exercise. It should be mandatory.
Agree.
Even if you have good points, your opinion doesn't matter because you don't participate in the process, and that makes you, unfortunately, a part of the problem. And I don't understand this. How can you not vote? Like,
Remember, wasn't it last night that we had the conversation with the gentleman from Australia that it's mandatory as citizens of
yes.
Australia? 90,
And it
95% participation rate. It's a civil fine if you don't vote.
yeah,
And they have sausage parties and whatever else they
sausage
have.
parties and some of the high schools in where they have farming, they have farmers markets set up, and I
Yeah.
mean, how fucking awesome is that? And they openly brag about how good like the farmers market are for the kids, and it helps the kids in high schools raise money, so it's like a community event. It just saddens me that
I
that
know.
people don't that people don't vote. I don't
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
not concerned. Yeah.
it's the irony though, right? You get people who complain about although she wasn't complaining, she just had some questions about the candidates, but I do think it's trying to take her through the process. So for people to make a comparison, and
Yeah.
I'll have Anthony and I will have that conversation with you. If you want to compare Donald Trump to Joe Biden, we can compare them, but let's do it
Sure.
honestly. Let's have that
Yeah.
conversation honestly. Let's really talk about it. And if people want to have that conversation, that's why we're here. But the topic at hand here is, look, MAGA, we know that offended you. We know that offended you. We know that offended you. We know that Taylor Swift offends you. We know that rainbow flags offend you. We know that Nike and Carhartt and Bud Light offends you. But yet you seem to be okay with this under the guise of free speech, right? So you got to help us understand that. You really have to help us understand that. Please continue to like and share, guys. We really appreciate that. And let's jump into some more conversations. Charles in charge. How are you tonight?
Don't you think you're exaggerating a little bit?
Let's pump the brakes a little bit. What am I exaggerating about?
All that stuff you just said.
Like what, man? Like what?
Like
Be
everything up
specific,
there on
okay?
that list.
Are you offended by Colin Kaepernick taking a
Yeah,
knee?
yeah, I am.
Okay.
What's so funny about that? I don't like people that disrespect our country.
How's
Ah,
that disrespectful? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
so, as a veteran of the United States military, you are aware that taking a knee is also a sign of respect and an honor, and it is not offensive, and that we don't actually swear any allegiance to a flag. The oath that we take as veterans is to the Constitution of the United States. So, how you were raised may give you the perception that that could be offensive. But then we have this thing, it's called the First Amendment, in which we are allowed to protest. And it wasn't disruptive. And I would have, not that I would ever get invited to an NFL football game with a field pass, but if anybody out there wants to give me a field pass, I'd be happy to take a knee at the national anthem. If you read the actual entire poem of the national anthem, you'll also see how it ties back into slavery. It's not really a pretty thing.
Oh, come on.
So
Come
Charles,
on, dude.
Charles, are you a veteran?
What's that matter?
I'm just asking because you just heard from a veteran, and a
What's
veteran
that
doesn't find
matter?
the defense. It
Oh,
matters
oh,
because,
okay. Wow.
well, Charles,
We
hold on a second.
everybody
Charles,
loves this
Charles,
country, whether you're a
Charles,
veteran or
pumps the
not.
brake. Pump the brakes. Okay, you
No,
may not like it, but you're offended by it. That's the point.
I am.
Okay, okay, but that it doesn't matter if you're offended by it, Charles. Are you a Trump
Yes, it
voter?
does.
Are you a Trump voter?
I ain't answering that question.
Oh, it
I
doesn't.
don't have to tell you who
Well,
I don't have to
I know
tell
you
you
are.
who I
Well,
vote for.
I'm
You know
offended by
you
Trump.
seem to know a lot of shit. You know that?
So tell me
You
what else
seem
I
to
lied
know an
about.
awful lot. You make up all kinds of
Thank
bullshit.
you. What else did I make up, Charles? What
You
else did I
don't
make up?
know nothing about
No,
me.
you don't know anything about
Quit
me.
acting like you do.
You don't know anything about me.
Am I saying I know anything about you?
No, but what else did I lie about? You said we lied about a
You
whole
just
bunch of
lied
stuff. What
about
else did we?
me, telling me who I vote for and stuff.
I asked you. You wouldn't tell me, so I made that assumption.
I
You
know,
want to
so you
clarify?
made
Feel
an
free.
assumption. That's just like you guys.
Okay. Okay.
You make
So
assumptions.
Charles, tell us what else. Tell us what else we lied about. Go ahead.
Well, what
What
offends
else?
me is that stuff right there, disrespecting our flag. I love this country.
So do I.
When you don't disrespect the flag, that disrespects people like you that's in the
It's not.
military.
It's
It's
not.
not a way to
It's not disrespect
protest.
the
That's
flag.
not the right way to protest.
That's your opinion, Charles.
And
That's your
that's right.
opinion,
That's why
Charles.
I'm giving it to you.
And you know what? You know what's in our what's the
You
First
can
Amendment of
like
the
it or
Constitution,
not.
Charles? Charles, what's the First Amendment of the Constitution?
I don't care. You don't disrespect the flag.
So, do you know that one of the rights that we have in the Constitution
You
is
can
the
burn.
right to peacefully protest?
Yes, that's not Find another way to protest besides our
Oh,
country.
because I see because you don't like it.
I was
Got
right.
it.
I
Because
don't
you're
like
kicking.
it. How many times
Can
do
I
I
ask
gotta
a
tell you?
question?
How many times do I got to
Can I
tell
ask a
you I don't
question?
like it?
I don't
Hey,
care.
hey, Charles, can we just take it down a notch here, sport? Like, you don't have to yell, I can hear you. Can you specifically point in the US flag code where it says you can't do that? Because you're saying
You know
that
what? You're as old as I am. You should know better.
well, I'm 57. I don't know
know.
how
You
old
should
you
know.
are.
You should know better.
Oh,
I
we should
can
know better.
understand these young people be thinking like that, but
Wait a minute.
you're old
Okay,
enough to know
let's
better.
okay, all right, let's get on equal footing here. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that I should know better. When I shared that I was a veteran of the United States military, you said you didn't care. Then I asked you if you could point to where it is in the US flag code that you can't kneel before
You
the
can
flag.
do it. You're
Ah,
allowed to do it. But when you
okay.
do it, it pisses me off.
Okay,
Don't
so
care.
let's
Just like
unpack
freedom
that
of
just
speech.
for 1 second.
Just like freedom of speech. I don't like your speech, but you got a right to say it.
Okay, so maybe a better way to have come in to address this is to have said, this is just a suggestion as someone who's older, as you pointed out. My name is Charles. Hi, good evening. I would like to discuss the fact that I find it offensive when when people take a knee because I feel X, right? Instead, you came in here all enraged because a guy that you don't know, will probably never meet, I will probably never meet, took a knee. So if we think about opinions, right? One of the things I like to do, Charles, is I like to try to get on equal footing with people. I like to find similarities. I guarantee you and I have something in common besides our citizenry, right? Besides being citizens of the United States. I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions. These are not trick questions. These are not meant to make fun of you. Let's see if we can find something in common. I have 2 actual offset wood smokers in my backyard because I like to smoke meat. Specifically, I like to do hunting so that I can smoke meat. Do you like either of those 2 things?
I do both.
Okay, now
Me
see,
too.
now we have something in common. So now you also know that I'm a gun owner. So that's another thing we have in common. I like fishing, but I
Me too.
suck at it. But I like fishing just because it's fun to be out on a boat or at the edge of a lake. Do you like fishing?
Yep.
Okay,
Me
see,
too.
now we have things in common, right? So
Hello?
are you microwaving something? That was a really weird sound.
I'm just moving stuff around. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I get distracted. I do that too. So see, now we already have these cool things in common that you probably didn't expect 2 gray bearded dudes from the left to have, right? So if we find some similarities with ourselves first, then we can start to dissect what is in the meme that's attached behind the screen, right? A lot of people thought those things were offensive. We're not saying that people don't understand that everyone has a right to do it. What we're trying to understand is why are those 3 things on top, but then from the right, and I'm not saying you, I'm not going to put you into a spot, but people on the right didn't have any issue with people carrying tiki torches saying things like we will not be replaced and other anti-Semitic things, right? So we're trying to understand where it is that people that align with being offended by a guy taking a knee, I just realized what the second one was, the P caps, because I won't say that word out loud, and the coffee cups, versus actual white supremacists marching down a street as something people weren't offended with. I don't know if you were, but if we're going to have a conversation, a good faith conversation.
Even if you are offended, they have a right to do that.
Right. So again, Charles, since we're talking about opinions, so you had an opinion that you didn't like this. You have an opinion. Do you believe in a woman's right to bodily autonomy, Charles?
Well, what's that mean? Not to have an abortion? Yeah,
her right.
She's allowed to have abortion. Yeah, I believe in no abortion.
She's allowed.
You heard me.
Okay.
I don't believe she's
Okay,
allowed to have an abortion.
Great. Have a good night.
Well, I tried.
I know you tried. I knew it. That's why I intentionally asked that question, because I knew that's where it's going. See,
Yeah.
This is the point, and I'm glad you set it up the way that you did, Anthony. Because listen, opinions, like our fathers and mothers told us, are like assholes. Everybody has one, and you can have an opinion, and yeah, you're right, elbows and assholes. You can have an opinion on things, but you don't have a right to tell women what to do. I don't give a shit if you allowed is an interesting one, but the way Anthony described it is, we've seen how angry people on the right got over Colin Kaepernick, and about the pig cats, and about a woman's right to bodily autonomy, and about Starbucks red cups and rainbow flags.
Can I be honest with you? I didn't get the Starbucks cup thing at all. That, out of all of them, that one dumbfounded me. I'm like, it's a cup with a beverage in it.
Exactly. But you can add to the list. We know these are things that have. The point is, for people that are listening, is that we know that these things have triggered you, MAGA, over and over and over and over again, but yet you don't criticize or question people literally saying the Jews will not replace us. in Charlottesville and carrying tiki torches. And
Yeah.
again, if your opinion on that is somebody has a right to free speech, then be intellectually honest and say, well, so did they. So
Right.
did they. Now,
Right.
again, to Charles, first of all, for Charles to question a veteran when a veteran literally is trying to educate him is just really, really interesting, which shows me that Charles doesn't care about American values at all.
Yeah.
You can have your opinion about Colin Kaepernick, but he literally was expressing his constitutional right, peacefully protesting, protected
Yep.
right that Anthony fought for and other veterans fought for. So think
Hey.
that through, MAGA. It requires a
Yeah.
little bit of critical thinking.
By the way, the U.S. flag code is a trick question. Just so everybody knows, if you come up here all puffy, I'm going to give you trick questions as it relates to the U.S. flag code. So
Nice.
be ready, because this will be the fun part. Like,
Cool.
not insulting you fun, but like fun to talk about because it's rather silly.
Yeah, I agree. Continue to like and share, you guys. Really appreciate that. Out of the dark. Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How about y'all?
We're doing good, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I mean, I agree that they should have freedom of speech regardless. I don't know what. I guess the bottom one. I'm not up on this, so I'm guessing they're having some kind of march with their tiki torches that a lot of people are not agreeing with, right?
Yeah, it was an alt-right rally. It was in Charlottesville specifically when don't forget, Donald Trump said, find people on both sides. Do you remember that?
So are
Well,
you
no, question.
saying they
I'm asking you.
have the right to have
Hold
their
on.
opinion?
No, that's not what I said. I asked you, do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember him saying something about it, but I think they took that whole what he said out of context. But that's neither here nor there. I don't care. I mean,
So, well, no, it's actually beyond here nor there. It's actually here. So you don't have a problem with Donald Trump saying that YT supremacists and people chanting the Jews will not replace us is okay?
if he's talking about them having their opinion, yeah, that's okay, right?
I want you to understand what I'm asking you out of the dark. So what Donald Trump said was that people who are marching with tiki torches, chanting the Jews will not replace us, representing anti-Semitism and white supremacy, you're saying it's okay that the President of the United States referred to them as fine people. You're okay with that?
He said some of them, and some of them are.
Fine people. Anthony?
Well,
Any interest?
I mean, do you think they all? Do you think
No,
they
but
all have a dogmatic view of that, or do you think they're just marching because they're trying to?
I think anybody standing there with a tiki torch chanting the Jews will not replace us are disgusting, despicable people.
Did
Yep.
BLM chant things that shouldn't have been chanted?
No pivots.
No pivots.
pivots.
I want you can't pivot. This is the problem out of the dark. You're pivoting away because you're caught. Like, how would you answer that
No,
question?
I don't agree with everything they've said. No.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So that's the whole point. So are you comfortable with Donald Trump basically emboldening YT supremacy, literally having
I don't know that he
groups?
did that. So you're trying to make a narrative that didn't happen.
No, actually, I'm not making the narrative. It's actually real out of the dark.
Can
It's
you
real.
tell me where I can look that speech up and listen to the whole thing again? Because I think you missed the point, or I did.
So the quote is specifically
The
find
speech,
people.
not the quote. The speech.
Sure, we'll pull that up for you. But you haven't answered my question yet. Okay. So
You're
I'm
asking me to tell you something on what
no,
he
I'm
said out of context.
No. I am asking your opinion on whether or not you can support someone who says that it's fine people on both sides and invites white supremacists to have dinner with him and has the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the Triple K support him and vote for him. Are you okay with that? Don't pivot. Just answer the question, please.
I'm okay with him sitting down and talking to these people. Yes.
You're okay with white supremacists supporting Donald Trump?
I don't care who they support. What does it matter who they support?
Because that's the party that you
No, wait a
align
minute.
with.
If he supports them, that's one thing. But if they support
They
him, that's
support
another.
him.
So,
And he supports them too. But he supports them too.
no, he never said he supported them. You give me
What did
the speech. Tell me which one it is. How to look it up, and I'll look
Okay.
it up.
Okay. How about on the debate stage with Joe Biden when asked to condone the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers? What did he say?
No, I don't think he asked him to condone them. Did he?
He did condemn them.
He
He said
did.
condemn them right here. He
Wow,
did.
wow.
What did he say?
Okay. Then
What
what
did he
did the
say?
Proud Boys do for him
What
to
did he
condemn
say?
them?
What did he say? Out of the
What
dark?
did the
What did
Proud
he say?
Boys do?
You're not going to answer a question with a question. I asked you specifically. What did he say when asked to condemn the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers? What did he say?
I don't know what exactly. I don't think he condemned them. Why?
He was asked to condemn them. And what did he say?
I don't know, but I don't think he condemned them. What did he say?
He absolutely did not condemn them. And why
Okay.
not?
That's what I'm saying. What did he say?
He said, stand back and stand by.
Stand
And they
by.
made T-shirts. And they wore T-shirts to J6.
No, when they asked him that question, that's what he said. That was the very
He
thing
said,
he said.
He said, stand
Yes.
back and stand by.
What's the speech then?
It was the debate with Joe Biden. The
Um,
moderator of the debate said, here's your chance. Because Joe Biden called him to task. He said, do it right now. Do it right now. And all he said was stand back and stand by.
What does that mean?
Out of the dark.
You're taking it the way you want to take it, and that's the way Democrats always.
No,
do.
I would like to think that I would like to think that a person who has been asked to disassociate with YT supremacists, given a chance in a debate, publicly
Yep.
in front of millions of people, simple saying, I condemn all YT supremacy. They're despicable. I don't want nothing to do with them. I don't want their votes. Instead,
tell me
he
this:
says,
did the white
wait, I'm not
boys-
done. I'm not done.
I mean-
I'm not done. Instead, what Donald Trump does is says, stand back and stand by. But you don't have a problem with that, do you, Out of the Dark?
If he does something wrong, I have a problem with it. Yes,
So you don't, but that's not a line for you?
he didn't do anything wrong there. So am I supposed to condemn him because he said a word that you're taking out of context?
I'm
But
not
that's what
taking out of
you're
context.
asking
That's
us
what
to
he
do.
said. No, it's what he said.
No, you're asking. You're taking something out of context, just like
No, I'm
the
not
news
taking it
network.
out of context at all. It's not out of context. So is there a line that he can cross where you'll stop voting for him? Is there a line?
Okay. Did the Proud Boys do anything wrong? Did they go to school?
Yes.
Did they burn
They went to the
houses
Capitol
down?
and
Did
they're
they
in
burn
jail.
cities down? Did they do anything like that?
Yeah, they're in jail. They tried to.
They did?
tried to, yes, they did. Out of the dark.
Where did
They're in jail.
they burn stuff down?
They
No city has
broke
been
into
burned
the-
down.
They broke into the
Okay, what
Capitol
city
on
did they go in
J6.
and burn part of?
Washington, D.C.
They didn't burn anything in Washington.
They went to the Capitol. They smashed windows. They beat up cops, and they tried to overthrow the
No.
government.
See, we were already
Yes.
playing out now, and we're finding out that was a lie. Just
Out
like
of
the
the dark.
Russia collusion thing.
Let me change the subject here. What did you have for dinner?
What I hadn't had dinner.
Nobody gives a fuck.
By the way, so it's August 15th, 2017, President Donald Trump held a press conference. Now, this is the transcript from C-SPAN, which I don't even know where they rate because they just record shit and put it up. So they're about as
they're right down the
neutral, right down the middle,
Yeah.
right? Let me see. Okay. The reporter's statement prior to Trump's statement. The neo-Nazis started this. They
Yazidis.
showed up in
Yazidis.
Yazidis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest. Trump, excuse me. They didn't put themselves. And you had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. It's super hard to read out loud the
I know
quotes
him.
from him.
I know.
I'm like,
I tried it.
whew. He said exactly what you said. And
Yes.
listen, we're going to get more of these intellectually dishonest guys. That guy that you had before that was just on. I find it interesting that his profile picture has a flag, an American flag hanging in the background. Right?
I know.
They all want to be patriots, but they all don't want to serve and actually do the work. Right?
No, but
It's
I guess
really interesting.
yeah, the point of that conversation and what people don't understand is that it's easy for the right to pivot away because you don't like being called out because you can't defend
Right.
white
Right.
supremacy. You can't defend it. So your
Yeah.
only escape of that conversation is to try to unwrap more of your racism and bigotry and bring
Yeah.
up BLM. That's
Yeah.
your game. That's your entire game. And here's the thing, MAGA. Anthony and I are smarter than you. And we can see it coming. And Anthony's smarter than me. So if I can see it coming, I know he can see it coming. So it's
Yeah.
predictable. So if you want to have a sincere conversation, then have a sincere conversation. But don't pivot away to bullshit. Don't deny the fact that David Duke is a Trump supporter. Okay?
Yeah.
He's a leader of the Triple K. Don't try to pivot away from the fact that the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys made T-shirts for J6. They sold them on their websites, promoting Stand Back and Stand By. Don't deny the fact that Trump's had dinner with Nick Fuentes and Kanye, who are known supremacists and anti-Semites. You have to start. You got to start living in reality, because I think my fear is this. The realization is you're going to wake up one day and say, holy shit, I've been aligned with this guy who's a white supremacist. I need to just deny the fact that I've ever known Trump. So when Trump gets hammered in this election, when he's watching the returns from his jail cell and he gets hammered in this election, none of you are going to say and ever admit that you voted for him. None of you. You're all going to run back to mom's basement because you'll be embarrassed. It's easy for you now to stand on your platform, whatever it is, and try to make the claim that he's better for America when he's a criminal. He's a sexually abusing fraudster. Period. You may not like it, but that's the reality.
Yeah. And
sorry, not sorry.
Also, this term taking things out of context is really in the last 3 years it's being used, but unfortunately, people don't know what that really means. If I'm reading from a script that is off of a recorded event, it is impossible for me to take things out of context. Now,
Correct.
I think what people are trying to say is that my bias is making assumptions on the intent of those words. That would be true. That would be true if I didn't have the transcript in front of me. But if I'm just simply reading the words that are a transcript of what was said, I can't interpret intent. I can't add a bias filter because I'm just literally trying to read out loud the words that were said. So it's important, right, that we get that stuff established. Grammar is hard. I get it. It sucks. Diagramming sentences sucks. But we don't take things out of context because that would be a lie.
A quote being taken out of context. That's fun. Nemo, what's up, brother? How are you?
How's it going?
Very well.
For some reason it showed I wasn't following you. Have you noticed that you're
It's my backup. This is my backup.
Oh, that explains it. That's a good reason. All right. That's an excellent reason.
I was a victim of the Banana Brigade, the Banana Brigade yesterday.
Yeah, I got hit last week. It was something. I actually got hit. I think it was within the first 10 minutes of going live. It was crazy. So
Damn.
What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
not much. It's just listening to the great minds you were talking to earlier. I had a lot of feelings about them. But yeah, that was interesting. It's crazy how many people have taken the position of I'm not going to vote, as if that makes them, I guess, more enlightened or something like that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah,
like I know a secret that the rest of you don't.
Yeah. I think that they view taking a side as uh, partisanship, and because you're partisan, that means that you're not thinking critically or logically or clearly, and because of that, you are wrong. And so instead of doing that, I am going to not choose. I am not going to endorse either one or vote for either one. And as a result, I am going to somehow be smarter. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because we did a live, I think it was last week on media literacy, and we touched on critical thinking a little bit, right? About understanding your sources and where it comes from and what it means. Like the example that Anthony just gave about, no, that's not out of context. That's a fact. It's a quote. So people not understand, like people throw out the word hearsay. They don't know what hearsay means, right? I mean, that to your point, I think that fits into the narrative because if I accept the news or the facts, then my entire narrative has become destroyed. Therefore, I'm just going to claim independent. Because if TikTok was a measure for how many independents we had in America, 95% of the population would be independent.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think there's really two primary schools of thought or two primary groups with independence. So one is people that aren't into politics. They're basically politically apathetic. It's just not their thing. They don't really care. They're not interested in it, which honestly, I get it because learning how the world's on fire every day is pretty depressing at times. So I get it. But they just call themselves independent because it's easier to do that. And the word independent, there's a positive characteristic assigned to that word. It has a positive connotation. So they call themselves independent. That's the first school of thought. Those people, they can be reached. You just have to kind of explain the stake to them in a nice, calm way, which you do a really good job of. The second group, and this is the far more insidious one, is Republicans who are too embarrassed to call themselves Republicans, because they understand that if they call themselves a Republican, they have automatically made it abundantly clear that they are a Trump supporter and they support the silly circus that is the Republican Party today. If they're an independent, that's still ambiguous. Typically, the way to sniff that one out is when they say they're an independent, ask them what criticisms they have of the Republican Party and Trump. 99% of the time, they don't have any criticism. If they do have a criticism, it's probably related to Trump's pandemic policies. It'll be a nice backhanded statement about Fauci, more than likely.
Right.
But they will have a laundry list of criticisms for the Democrats, and that's how you know that they're actually a conservative who's just too embarrassed.
Yep. That's well said. I mean, we've seen that before. We had an exercise like that last week because I'm with you. With the flag goes up, independent, especially when we had people who said that they don't vote, but yet, or ask them specifically to name something that they support about the Democrats, and they never can. As an independent, they should be able to identify something if you're truly an independent. So I tend to look at that. I approach that just from the other side. I said, okay, tell me something good about the Democrats. Tell me something good about the Republicans. And they can never say anything positive about any Democratic policy at all. And they'll point to, well, gas prices were lower. Okay, great. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's, and I wish people would be more confident. I mean, you created this mess. If you voted for him, then stand up there and be proud. Because we know MAGA loves to spam from the chat. We know very few of them will come up and have that conversation. So does it feel safe to you, MAGA, to say, I'm just going to tell them I'm an independent so I can get up there and have a conversation? I'll still lose my shit during the conversation because they'll call me out, but at least I won't get kicked right away or something like that. I don't know. Try to get inside the mind of MAGA is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. It's really weird.
Unfortunately, I also think that in the conversations I've had with some people I know, like in real life, who are MAGA, some of it, if they draw a lot of their political motivation from, I guess, the defeatism and the borderline nihilism of the world in seeing American politics as it has become. Now, I would attribute the majority of that to the Republican Party, but that's another story. It's like, hey, the world's broken. There's horrible things going on everywhere, and Yeah, it didn't feel like that a long time ago. I mean, yeah, nostalgia has a way of making you forget about all the horrible stuff that was going on. People think I think that the '90s were wonderful because I was a kid in the '90s, but I can guarantee you, there's plenty of people who are like, "Nah, dude, the '90s were crazy. No, it was a horrible time."
Right.
There's plenty of people who think that the '80s were great. Guaranteed, you go talk to a couple boomers, they're gonna be like, "Nah, dude, the '80s was it was horrible. What are you talking about? No, that was horrible." Um, and I'm sure people say the same thing about the early 2000s. I know in the early 2000s, that's roughly when I was becoming, politically aware of things a little bit. Early 2000s, that's Bush era. Nah, that was horrible, but people are going to look back on it fondly and be like, oh, yeah, it was great back then. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it's the patriotic element. And we talked about this earlier about how, and I brought this up, I think it was before you joined, Anthony, about the history behind America First. So when people hear that statement, they say, why would you not want America to be first? But without understanding history and context, we go back to World War I, Woodrow Wilson, like this isolationist idea. We don't want to be involved in anybody else's business. We're going to keep it here. And because we turned a blind eye to foreign policy, that was the rebirth of Germany, which led to the Reich. So that's why we're talking about what we're talking about now with Trump basically saying, I'm going to pull us out of NATO and I'll just tell Putin to do whatever the hell you want. There you go. That is the rebirth of that same mindset, which again, history is important. And then when we ask the question, do you understand why MAGA is so offensive to so many people? When was America great for the BIPOC community, for the poor, for women, for LGBTQIA? I mean, when was America great for anybody but white cisgendered Christian men?
Yeah, hey, really quick. I think the GOP just impeached Mayorkas.
Okay,
I need to verify that. Sorry, but that just popped up as a.
I thought they had the vote already.
213 to 213.
Did they hold another vote? I thought that the vote failed yesterday. Or
no, they're holding another one. They're trying to.
So if it's 213, then that would be a tie, and there's no way to break a tie in the House. So what is the vote? 213 nays.
So 214, 216 is what I'm seeing.
Okay, that's what it was the last time, but in reverse. Oh,
right. Oh no, wait, hold on.
Extra. So 214 to 213. I don't know.
I'm looking at New York Times right now. So Republicans cheer as the vote is gaveled out. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a driving effort behind the impeachment, is posing for photos with members and receiving hugs and congratulations. So yeah, it looks like they did it.
So here's the funny thing about that, and I want to talk about that real quick. I just think, first of all, we can go back and revisit this entire thing, that during the entire time that the bipartisan bill, which was led by, a pretty staunch conservative Lankford in the Senate, that included all the things that Republicans had been asking for. Right. Mayorkas was involved in those negotiations. The Republicans said, we're not going to vote for it, okay, in the House. So Mayorkas, the guy who's doing the work to try to get the legislation passed that Republicans want, gets impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors because that's the bar for impeachment. Where's the fucking high crime?
Yeah.
Where is it?
So,
yeah.
The New York Times, I do have criticisms of the New York Times occasionally, but they do a pretty good job of summarizing things in nice bite-sized ways, which my ADD, I need this in my life. So, like I said, the action put Mr. Mayorkas in the company of past presidents and administration officials who have been impeached on allegations of personal corruption and other wrongdoing, but the charges against him broke with history by failing to identify any such offense, instead effectively declaring the policy choices of Mr. Mayorkas has carried out a constitutional crime. The approach threatened to lower the bar for impeachments, which already has fallen in recent years, reducing what was once Congress's most potent tool to remove despots from power to a weapon to be deployed in the political fights.
Oh my gosh! Anyway, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to go. It's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. So what the hell is the point? So this is a question that I'll ask you, MAGA, right now. Since for years, none of you have claimed that Donald Trump was impeached. Okay, so then is Mayorkas been impeached?
Well, no, of course not.
No, of course not. Right. So Nemo, you're welcome to stick if you want, brother. I'm going to bring somebody else up.
Okay.
Sorry for sidetracking, but
no, it's all good. It's all good.
My phone kept getting alerts. I'm like, what the? I thought it was my
No
actual
worries.
day job.
Good evening, Mike. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
God, we got you. What's on your mind tonight, sir?
Well, um, look, I mean, we can sit and fight about this, that, and the other, but I mean, so I listened to your questions to the previous people, and you talked about very fine people on both sides, and
Right.
you failed to add the part where he said, and I'm not talking about white nationalists and white supremacists. He condemned
No,
those people. He
but
condemned David
Mike,
Duke years ago.
right, but we're talking about the speech. We're talking about that speech specifically, Mike. That's the context, and I think again
That's
we're
part
talking
of the
about
speech.
Mike. It's actually not.
It
So
is.
once
If you look
Mike,
it up,
once again, Mike, the question for you specifically, okay, is that the leader of the free world had an opportunity to condemn white supremacy, to condemn those groups, and he said, "Stand back and stand by."
on
Are
the
you okay
debate
with that?
stage, is that what you're talking
He
about?
did. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that. I watched it, and
right.
he said something like, I've done this a million times. How many times do I have to do this before you?
But Mike, see this is what I hear. This is what I hear from you right now. I hear you almost apologizing for it. Again, the
I'm not
question I asked you,
apologizing.
well, hold on. The question I asked you specifically, and I really want you to answer this question. Are you okay with the President of the United States, the person that you're probably going to vote for, or likely vote for? I don't know. I'm going to make that assumption. That's fair. But he made that statement that said, first of all, very fine people on both sides. Also, on the debate stage, said stand back and stand by. Those groups made T-shirts. We know that the affiliation of the people that support Trump identify with that ideology as well.
Okay.
We know that we know that he's had dinner with Nick Fuentes and then tried to brush it off like it was no big deal. We know that he's been endorsed by David Duke. We know all these things. This is all fact. Are you okay with that, Mike?
Well, I cannot control who supports this person or that person. Number
That is
one,
true.
let me
That is
let
true.
me finish. So, are you okay with?
Wait, you didn't answer my question. You didn't answer my question. Once again, Mike, the specifics are you okay voting for somebody who aligns with all of those people and accepts their endorsements? That's the question for you, Mike.
So, okay, so what you're saying is this person supports me. He's going to vote for me. I condemned him and his movement, but he's still going to vote for me and still supports me. So, how is that in his control?
It's not about his control, Mike. It's about one second, Anthony. It's not about his control, Mike. The problem is are you familiar with the term complicit?
Yes, I know what that
Okay,
means.
so if you're voting for somebody who has identified the fact that he doesn't mind having people that are white supremacists, known racists, bigots, people that are part of hate groups, all these people that are carrying tiki torches and worse in some cases are voting for the same person that you are, that would make you complicit. That would mean that you support that or you condone it.
No,
Are you okay with that?
if I believe that he is a good person and I don't give a shit who votes for him. If he's going to go to the office that I want him to go to, more power to him. Do I agree with
Okay,
their policies? No, I don't.
but right, but Mike, but here's the thing.
So
Here's the thing.
can I ask you a question? You've
Sure, one
asked
second.
me
So,
several
one second.
questions.
One second. It's my life. Here's one more question. So here's the
Okay.
problem, though. So you're enabling him by voting for him, which means if he gets back into power, all the things that we were just talking about, locking up veterans that are houseless, deportation panels running through states, randomly picking people based on what they look like. This is what we're talking about. So you might say, I can't control who supports him, but you're enabling him. And if he gets back into power, these things that we're talking about here suddenly become okay from the President of the United States. That's the problem, Mike. That's the piece that I don't think you're understanding.
Well, I don't think you're understanding part of it too. So, are you okay?
Can you address what I just said, please? You're okay with that?
I know who Donald Trump is. I have followed him since I was a kid. He's
And
been
you're okay with that? You're okay with the fact that he abuses women?
prove it.
We did in court. It was done.
Yeah, okay. The $80 million for some freaking crazy ass gal. Okay, yeah.
Oh, right.
Whatever.
Oh,
Good night, bigot. Good night, misogynistic pig. Yep. That's when it falls off the rails.
They don't send their best.
No, they
The,
never do.
the new word we're going to use, because they don't know what complicit means, and it seems that a lot of us Gen X people have been present in the box. Nemo not being one, because he's far.
He's jealous.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, his beard looks like it's been sculpted since Gen X. I mean, that thing is a freaking beauty.
Consistently think that I'm like at least 3 or 4 years older than I actually am. So, and it's been like that my entire life. I just look old. It's a thing.
My guess is 35.
Yeah, there you go. I'm 30, about to be 31.
See,
Yeah.
so there you go.
That sucks. That old.
Yeah.
We should start talking about scruples, which is a term that's not used very often, right?
That's fair. Values.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's about moral principles or beliefs that make you unwilling to do something that seems wrong. All of these people have no scruples. They know it seems wrong, and yet they're up here defending the actions of Donald Trump with their pivots, their whataboutisms, their let me ask you a question. For those that are going to come into a box, here's how this works. I am a co-host. I don't set rules. The host, Fax, sets the rules. So you don't get to come up and demand something. Kind of like I don't get to come and put my feet up on your coffee table when I walk into your house. Although I wouldn't do that, and I would take my shoes off first. But anyway.
Yeah, and just to reset that, the rules are simple, right? If you make a claim, the burden of proof is on you, and it's not look it up. It's literally the burden of proof. Excuse me. And I need water. You can't answer a question with no further questions. No whataboutisms. So I could say, Anthony, did you have you don't like steak?
What about Biden?
Exactly. Thank you for playing along. Much appreciated. But those are the only rules. I mean, I don't platform bigots, I don't platform racists, and I don't platform that nonsense. But if you want to have a conversation, we'll have it. All right, next up. Thank you all. Continue to like and share. Really appreciate that. We are participating in the strike, so no gifts. Gifts are turned off this evening. Purple Haze, how are you tonight?
Purple Haze. Oh, cancel.
Cancel?
Yeah.
Want to be here? Did you request by
Oh,
accident?
no, by accident. Sorry. Just listening.
It's okay. I got
All right.
it. No worries.
Thanks.
Thanks, man.
That's like my biggest fear is me doing something and then ending up like on a live and everybody can hear me and I don't know it. It scares the crap out of me.
I had that in my pocket. I was on Jay's live by accident last week because I was out for a walk and I requested by accident. He's like, Fax, what's up? Got a question? I'm like, who's he talking to? Oh, it's me. He's like, talking to you, man. I'm like, oh, sorry. All right. Traditional tattoos. Let's go. I've got a few traditional tattoos. I've got 11.
Me too.
Yep. Please like and share, everybody. Really appreciate that. And again, we're participating in CoinCon. If you'd like to support the channel, I have to put my bio up. Anyway, don't worry about it. Gift Nemo, gift Anthony. Go to their platforms and give them something. Or gift by mods. They're awesome too. Traditional tattoos does not look like he's connecting. Okay. Let's keep going.
Do you have a link for it?
I need help with it. I'm not very
Oh, yeah. I'll help you out with that.
Okay. Thanks, man. I've got my YouTube link to my YouTube channel is up on my main, but my site.
Because
So my
I work in IT and I'm still like completely ignorant with how that side of things.
it's funny because I
Exchange special.
well I need tech support since my boys don't live at home anymore. So
Oh,
I have to call them up and say, how do I do this? And you'd be like, Dad, really? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny. All
they
right.
should start invoicing you.
He does. Tick tick
Oh,
tick. How are you
hello.
tonight?
All right. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind this evening?
So I'm not calling here to support Trump. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not asking anybody to vote for Trump mainly because of the immigration thing.
Okay.
So, but my thing is with the hypocrisy on Ukraine.
Okay.
That's when I came up. You say
So
I agree with you. Russia has no right to invade Ukraine and should leave. Right.
right.
On the other hand,
Right.
the U.S. knows that Israel has no right to be in the West Bank or Gaza or interfere or blockade them or anything. But Biden and every Republican as well, they all support it. And I don't see the liberals in the U.S. talking about it much.
I
The
talk about it all the time.
yeah. Do you think Israel should leave the West Bank and Gaza? That Israel is the bad guy in this situation?
I think, I'm going to unpack this. I'm going to let Anthony finish this conversation up. I think Israel has a right to defend itself based on what happened on October 7th, but I am disgusted by Israel's approach to this whole thing.
But that's the
And I'll
thing.
leave it right there.
Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself because it's an occupying force. And as
I
long as
think
Israel is occupying
okay,
the West Bank,
so
each group has the right.
Take a deep breath, bro. You asked me my opinion. You can't tell me it's wrong. It's my opinion. Okay. So I'm going to let Anthony speak to it. I think he put his hand up. I think he wanted to chime in.
Yeah. So, as a Jew, I believe that my homeland has every right to defend itself. Now, to your point, what needs to happen is there needs to be a two-state solution. But before you come back with Gaza and the West Bank, I have a question. When the fuck is Egypt and Jordan going to take care of that? It's their problem too. Everybody seems to forget about the war in 1967, in which that actually became a problem, including the entire Sinai Peninsula that was taken over. This is a problem that Israel has to solve, and it can't just be a political one. It's a situation that Egypt and Jordan have to be involved in, because technically speaking, those little carve outs belong to Jordan and Egypt. They need to come to the table. And if you do look at the history, Egypt and Jordan specifically have rejected over and over again Palestinians, a Palestinian state. They don't support that either. So this is not just a problem for Israel to solve. Now, to your issues with Ukraine, we're talking about apples and oranges. The Ukrainian situation goes back to the Budapest Memorandum. By the way, Russian was also a signatory on that. So it's important to keep that in mind, right? But this thing you've come up with where you're claiming hypocrisy, I will return serve and say, if you're going to come up with claims of hypocrisy, please make sure that you have your historical facts lined up, because that's not a very good argument to stand 10 toes down on.
Okay, so then how is it not hypocritical? Do you believe in international law or no? You mentioned the Budapest Memorandum. So Israel is a signatory to the Geneva Convention and is a member of the UN. Therefore, Israel has no right to keep that land, the West Bank or Gaza. Whether it goes back to Jordan or Egypt is irrelevant. They have no right
No,
to
it's
be
not
there.
irrelevant. It's not irrelevant.
It's according to the UN. According to the UN, they don't have a right. The Israeli Supreme Court ruled that it is an occupation. So you don't believe it's an occupation?
I didn't say that. But you cannot discount Egypt and Jordan in this situation. How do you think the Gaza Strip and the West Bank came to be?
But the point is, the people who are there.
Answer my question.
Answer the question.
How did it come to be?
No, this is how you cut people off with things that don't matter.
No, I'm sorry, it does matter. He asked you a
What
question.
matters are
Answer it.
people. Do you believe that or not? People matter.
Tick, tick, tick. He asked you a question. Please
But
answer
do
it.
people matter or BS?
He asked you a question. Please answer it.
The question is about the Israel, Egypt used to control Gaza and Jordan used to control the West Bank, right?
Yeah,
So
it was actually their sovereign territory until
Right.
they invaded Israel and Israel took it from them.
Okay,
That's a
who
really
fired
important.
the first shots? Who fired the first shots?
Egypt did with their planes. They came and bombarded
Now,
Israel.
my understanding is that Israel knew they were going to be attacked and they fired the first shot. But okay, I'll give it to you. The point
So
is that there are 5 million Palestinians who live there. Either Israel must give them Israeli citizenship, right? Or get the hell out and let them have their own country. The UN, many members of the UN have recognized the Palestinians. So they should have their own country. Israel and Jordan don't have to be involved at all. What you're trying to do is to perpetuate this so that Israel can keep building settlements, so it makes it harder and harder for them to ever
You're
give
making
back the land.
accusations.
Let me ask you a question, and it's going to
Hang
start
on.
with our.
Hang on one second, Anthony. I think
Yeah.
I want to get your question, and I know Nemo wanted to chime in as well. So, Anthony, once you ask your question, then we'll go to let
Yeah.
Tick Tick respond, then we'll go to Nemo. Tick Tick, all I would ask you is that you seem like you're getting a little emotional. Let's just kind of bring it down a little bit. We're having a good conversation. We're trying to engage
It's
here.
the way
So
I
let's
am. I get like that for everything.
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to though, but you don't need to. So
This is going to be very quick. The reason that I chimed in is I'm being told by a lot of people that apparently this is like, since TikTok updated their terms of service or whatever, this is like a really risky topic. This is one of the ones that apparently it's been like a thing. I do believe it's an important topic and all that. Like, I'm not saying don't talk about it, but it's just risky. That's it.
Yeah, it's fair, and I was trying to monitor that, and I was aware of that as well. And again, this is a conversation that we can avoid a lot of the rhetoric. And Anthony, thank you for speaking from a place of historical perspective. I really think that's important. I just learned something, which I always do when we have conversations with you. But the problem is that wanting to hear the guest, well, you have a narrative. So you'll notice what the guest did. There was a narrative that was already baked into the conversation. And when you pivot away to try to support your narrative, that's when the conversation devolves. So, tick, 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 if you would like to come back at some point and have a conversation on historical relevance and maybe try to learn something, then we can do that together. Otherwise, it's not a productive conversation. Thank you, Nemo.
Yeah, and also really quick, I guess people or specifically Triple Tick Talk didn't hear where I said a two-state solution was needed. Like, that was literally the second thing I said, and I will continue to say it because it has to happen. So
yeah, tick, tick, tick. You can't say history is irrelevant, man. Obviously, it is. So you just lost your opportunity to come back because of that stupid statement. So, good night. Have a good sleep. Try to stay as cool as the other side of the pillow.
How is Israel your homeland? Your DNA says Western Europe. My family is from Morocco. My DNA does not say Western Europe, but I appreciate you trying to play this game. Good luck. I'm a Sephardic Jew, so why don't you do a little more research? And we know exactly where our family has lived over the last 600 years. So you may also want to try to get caught up with that fact.
Yeah, Mikey, I believe in human rights. That's where I draw the line. I think that there's examples of how, Netanyahu is despised by his own country, and I'm pro human rights.
As am I.
Yeah, that's kind of where I land on that issue.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna bring up Country Boy. We've talked before.
Have we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recognize his. Oh,
Country Boy.
Now I recognize.
Hey, look,
good evening, sir.
Your favorite MAGA person.
You are my favorite MAGA. You certainly are.
At least you got a good beard.
Yeah, I was going to compliment yours, man. I mean, not too
Oh,
bad.
dang.
That's pretty good. You're like in Nemo's league. You're past me. What's on your mind tonight, sir? What's on your mind?
Hey, well, a couple of things. And Anthony, I want to say kudos to you, buddy. Your Jewish heritage, I agreed with everything you said. Shocked the hell out of me. very excellent. I have some Jewish friends. I work with some Jewish folks, and so we've had these conversations a lot lately. So, but I agree with you on everything you said there, and appreciate it, brother, and your historical facts, perfect.
Thank you.
So, and hello, Nemo. Don't know you, but hello. So I wanted to talk about your background. I'll
Okay.
talk about the first two that really I don't really care to discuss, but I'll address them. The vagina hat. I guess that's appropriate to say here. The pink hat. I wasn't offended by them. Whatever. I thought it was dumb. It'd be like somebody wearing a penis on their head, but whatever. If that's what they want to do, so be it. The red cups, I don't
You do
understand.
know that a lot of people in your party were offended by that, though, country, right? You can acknowledge that, right, man?
Yeah, I think it's a
Okay.
stupid thing. I mean, I think it's unnecessary, but hey, if you want to, whatever you want to wear on your head, man, more power to you. The
Okay.
red cups, I don't know what that's all about. Have no idea. Don't care. I don't like Starbucks coffee, so I was never a Starbucks person. So
Okay.
don't know what that's about. And then on to the other thing. Colin Kaepernick, do I think he had a right to protest? Absolutely. Freedom of speech. Um, Going from a union rep's perspective on kneeling, basically doing a protest on your job, I don't think that's necessarily the right way to do things. I know most places don't allow personal protest while you're on the job. So I think there was a better way to handle it. You know, they have press conferences where they all get to speak before reporters after every game. Um, so I think there was a better way to do it. Am I offended? It didn't really offend me. I was, as someone who obviously got boys in the military, and I know Anthony's a vet. Um, I, I thought it was distasteful, but as far as his right to do so, sure, it's his right. Whether I agree with it or not.
Okay. So and I appreciate that perspective. That's why I like talking to you because you're logical. So let's talk about the on the job component because so no one had done the assumption was, I guess, as Americans, that everybody who stood on the sidelines on a football field and took the pledge and stood for the national anthem stood up because that's what they all did, right? So Colin Kaepernick made a decision. I've got this platform. People know who I am. I'm a Super Bowl quarterback. I've got millions of people watching me. I'm going to use this moment to make a statement about criminal justice reform, and I'm going to use my platform to do that. So you'll notice that the NFL has evolved since that. Some people can stay inside; they don't have to come out for the anthem. Some people can decide they want to participate. Some people can sit. So your point, I think, is a little bit backwards because he did something that's constitutionally protected, expressing his right to not only free speech but to peacefully protest. And then the NFL evolved, but he got black flagged by the NFL. That's
Right.
the reason that he's no longer in the league.
But the thing is, owners, just like every business owner, has a right to say, I think you're going to be too much disruption to my organization to bring you in. I mean, you
Okay.
know that's where the on the job component comes in.
Okay. Okay. Let me play devil's advocate. If he was white, would he be working in the NFL today?
If he was right,
Hmm.
well, uh, possibly.
Likely.
I mean, I don't know that there's a way to.
I think it's pretty obvious, country, because if you're an NFL fan, I don't know if you are, but I am.
Oh,
There are a lot of quarterbacks on a lot of rosters that don't have nearly the talent that that guy does.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's like you know, the Cowboys. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh, dude, my gosh.
But so the Cowboys handled it appropriately as far as I'm concerned. They went out, they had the whole team um, go out and kneel before the anthem. And so I think there was a way that he could have worked within the system and not divide so many people, because the thing should be to get your message across without dividing America.
Okay, but I'm going to let Nemo jump because I know he wants to. My last question though. So again, it's his constitutionally protected right to do what he did, right? And what did it do? We're still talking about it. So obviously, it made a massive impact on many people. And if it divided America, why? Why did it divide America?
Because of the fact that he was doing it during the national anthem.
Because people were offended by it.
Correct, and understandably so.
That's
I mean,
my point.
but because Anthony's not offended by it, I suppose. But there were veterans that gave a lot for, and they felt it as disrespect, and that's understandably so.
Well, but did veterans sacrifice for the flag, or did they sacrifice for what it represents?
Well, they swear an allegiance to the Constitution and their country.
Correct, not the flag though. Nemo,
But the flag represents their country.
in their opinion.
Correct.
Nemo, just you want to add, brother?
Yeah. I mean, so they swore an oath to the Constitution, and the First Amendment in the Constitution, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, right to protest, that covers what Kaepernick did. To be clear, not a fan of football. I don't follow football at all. Couldn't tell you anything about any of the teams. I know the game, but I just don't. It's not an interest of mine. But apparently Travis Kelce also knelt during the national anthem. So to Fax's point, Travis Kelce's a white guy. And, if you just looked at him, you would think he's probably a Trump supporter because he's like, burly, good old boy looking like with a beard, the whole 9 yards. And he knelt during the national anthem along with Kaepernick, like during that protest period. He's still in the NFL. So that to Fax's point, Travis Kelce's white, homeboy still, like, he was in the Super Bowl yesterday, or the day before, whenever. So yeah.
Different owners, and who knows if he would have been picked up by someone else. I mean, there's just no way to deal with hypotheticals, I guess.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I think it's interesting when we talk about collective bargaining and manners in which collective bargaining happens with particular unions, right? Now, as someone who grew up in a union household, I will acknowledge that the NFL Players League is technically a union, but it sure as fuck ain't a labor union. So let's make sure that we're calling that out, right? And the collective bargaining efforts that labor unions have to do are way more complicated, take way more time to carve out tiny little benefits, right? So because there was no clause, no nothing, right? What deeply offends me as a guy that grew up in a union household, my dad was an electrician in the IBEW. My baby brother is in the IBEW. I did it for a summer. I did lighting maintenance. Coolest fucking job you can have as a dude in the summer. He was punished for exercising his First Amendment right within the confines of his organized labor agreement, which didn't have a clause or a stipulation in there. So what I find offensive is that, say what you will about the protest, everyone is welcome to their opinion. It didn't offend me because I know my oath is to the Constitution. What offends me is that his ability to earn was taken away from him, and his union did nothing to protect him. Nothing. That I find deeply offensive. Unions are under such critical attack right now, and they still aren't doing anything for him, and that offends and saddens me because I support unions, right? And I really wished that they had stood up. I know he got a private settlement, and he was probably, at the end of the day, he probably got a nice paycheck, but to take a human being's potential and to strip them of their right to earn is just deeply un-American, more so than kneeling during the national anthem. And I'm going to close with this. I've been to several sporting events, right? I can't tell you how many supposed patriots are waiting in line to get beer, hot dogs, popcorn, or in the bathroom. So in the context of that, does kneeling really matter?
Yeah, and I want to jump on. So Nemo touched on it, and I brought it up too, country. And I think this is a real conversation that has to happen. Do you think that persons of color and white people are treated the same in our society?
Do I?
Yeah.
I believe there's racist in this country.
So
Do
then
I?
the answer is no. You don't think persons of color and people who are white are treated the same in our country.
On a larger scale, I don't believe in this systemic racism.
Okay, so let's answer the question first. Okay, so do you believe that persons of color and white people are treated the same in our country?
By whom?
Are treated the same in our country?
I guess I'm trying to nail
I'll ask
down.
it in a different way. Do
Okay.
you think society treats persons of color and white people the same?
No.
Okay. I appreciate you being honest because we know that that's not true, right? There are so many examples. So why don't you believe in systemic racism?
Because the systems, the way they're set up now with affirmative action and different things, are there to boost minorities.
So who was the main beneficiary of affirmative action? You know?
I don't.
White women.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. That's pretty interesting. I got to take a kid to kickboxing. Time got
Okay.
away from me, but I do want to touch on just your last meme on the freedom of speech.
Yeah.
On the Charlottesville protest.
Charlottesville. Yeah.
And so on the point of anti-Semitism and what this group and Nick Fuentes was chanting, absolutely abhorrent. I'll stand toe to toe with anybody against anti-Semitism any day of the week, all day long. What I think that some people, I actually have, and you can look him up. I followed him a long time ago. He calls himself the Black Rebel. His name's Andrew Duncan. I believe he's from Oklahoma. Cowboy, bull rider. Was there at the protest, and he was there protesting the tearing down or trying to remove the Confederate memorial. He wasn't part of the group that was marching down the street chanting the anti-Semitism. He's not anti-Semitic at all. So I think, in my opinion, that's what Trump was referring to when he said there's some good people on both sides, because there was many different groups that were protesting against taking down. I hate when people convolute the Confederate heritage with anti-Semitism, and they use that, and they use Stone Mountain. It pisses the hell out of me. So I'll go toe to toe with any of them guys that want to use the Confederate flag or the Confederate memorials in that way. It makes me madder than probably it makes you. But I think that's what Trump was referring to. Like I said, there was many different races. Like I said, you can look him up. His name is Andrew Duncan out of Oklahoma. He was there. He was protesting the tearing down of the deal.
That's a bit of a stretch, country, don't you think? I mean, again, I think what I'm hearing you say, and I think you're better than this, just because there might have been one person there, that's not the intention of that statement, and you know it. And the reason we know that's true is because the people that he should have been condoning and calling out, he's never done it.
Condemning.
I'm sorry, condemning. Yes, condemning. Exactly. And he's not doing it. That's the point. So it's easy to say that there might have been one person there who had good intentions, but again, to use this that we saw that day to say find people on both sides, and then to have the opportunity to condemn white supremacists during a debate and to say stand back and stand by.
Well,
And we know that the groups that support him, Mothers of Liberty, Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, you name it, they've all pledged their allegiance to Trump. That's the problem. That's the problem, and that hasn't changed.
well,
And you're better than that, man. You're better than that.
well, I don't like that. Like I said, I'll never condone Nick Fuentes and his group of ilk. It's horrible. Um, but
But you still vote for Trump, country.
yes,
Then you're complicit, man. That's the problem, bro. That's the problem.
it may be, but I can't vote for somebody, and I know we disagree on the issue with the gun control. I can't vote for somebody that's trying to infringe on my Second Amendment rights. Can't do it.
They're not, though.
Country.
They're not.
So to be clear, I own multiple firearms. I'm a big aficionado of the Second Amendment. But Donald Trump did the same thing. Donald Trump infringed on the Second Amendment multiple times. Well,
I agree with you.
yeah. So I mean, bump stock,
tried to,
that was one.
or he talked about it.
Yeah, like bump stocks, that was one of the big ones. And also his statement afterwards, where he said, we should take the PPUs first and then due process.
Yeah.
Which,
Right.
And Minnesota actually just passed a law that I don't agree with. So they take them for the first 14 days, but if they keep them any longer than that, they have to go through due process before anybody's amendment rights be taken. It should go through due process first.
yeah, well, I mean, so I would actually argue that I'm good with Minnesota's implementation. That sounds pretty reasonable because 2 weeks is long enough to get something in the courts. So the thing is that your standard is that Biden is going to infringe on the Second Amendment. Donald Trump did. I'm not sure that Biden's done anything in the 3 years to now relating.
Was it just last week that he said that still sticking with we've banned the assault weapons, we're going to do it again? That was just last week.
Okay, has it been done? Didn't Donald Trump say he was going to build a wall and get Mexico to pay for it, country? Talking about what Debo was talking about. Well, hold on a second. What Debo was talking about things that have been done, right?
I know, but once again, can we be complicit?
Okay, but country, let's be real. So if your issue is your issue is with the president or the candidates for president who are going to take away your rights, then the only one that's done that is Donald Trump.
So you're saying if you thought that that Biden wouldn't implement a strict assault weapons ban if he could.
But that's not my point. My point is if your issue is with the president who's actually taken away your rights, the only one who's done that between the two of them is Trump.
Are you talking about the bump stocks?
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the ATF, and look what the ATF has just done with
under what administration, country?
Under Trump.
Yeah.
But look,
okay. So then,
and to be clear, the ATF is an executive agency, right? It's a part of the executive branch.
Look what they've done now with the so-called ban.
Right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about, because to your point, right? You said you couldn't see yourself voting for somebody who's infringing on your 2A rights. And the only one of the two candidates currently running for president that's infringed on your 2A rights at all is who, country?
Trump administration.
So, I mean, again, if we want to be sincere, and you're a sincere guy, that's how you got to look at it. So that's your deciding factor, man. And I don't know why you would vote for Trump. Like I've told you before, brother, you're a closeted liberal, and you just don't want to admit it.
Well, I get accused of that by management when I'm fighting the union fight all the time. I'm telling you.
Good for you, bro.
But
good for you.
I got to get this kid to kickboxing. It was good talking to y'all, and
later, man.
Have a good one.
See you, buddy.
Yeah.
Take care. Take care.
Hey,
appreciate you, buddy.
I gotta drop.
Okay.
I'm right. So I gotta like feed the dog, walk the dog, make my daughter dinner. Um,
Okay,
the
got you.
burial's tomorrow morning, so I should be free and clear tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow is
Hope.
Valentine's Day, and I'm taking my daughter out for Valentine's dinner
Oh,
anyway,
that's
so I'm
right.
probably
I
not going to go.
forgot.
But yeah,
Shit, that
yeah,
too. All right. Well,
yeah.
Nemo is a much better looking replacement, so hopefully he could stay around for a while and help out.
No replacing you, Anthony. No replacing you. Just stepping in.
Temporarily taking a position within the co-hosting duties.
We
Yeah.
got you, buddy.
All
Good
right.
luck.
Appreciate you both.
Hey, man.
Give Jen a hug. Love you, man.
I will. Thank
Be
you.
well. Be well, buddy.
Cheers.
Take care. So I want to use the conversation that we just had with country for people that are in the chat. That's how you can have a conversation with people who you disagree with politically. You got to be sincere, and he's a sincere guy, and we disagree on most everything, but we understand that to move our country forward, there's got to be progress. So that's a good conversation. I like those. That's why we do it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's a reasonable dude, right?
He is. He's smart. He's a smart guy too. He knows. He knows his shit, and he's prepared. He comes to these conversations prepared, which I really really appreciate.
Yeah.
Because as you know, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. Can somebody put his tag in the chat? Because I need to follow this guy. I don't think that I follow this guy. But
Yeah, gifts are turned off, which is one issue. So, country, if you're still listening, just comment in the chat. Country boy, I think you can find him that way. I can send it to you, Nemo.
I got you.
Gregory, how are you tonight?
Oh, pretty good. How you doing, Fikes?
Doing fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, just going on the last conversation you had with Country, Colin Kaepernick, one thing that people often, they don't include in there, that he actually consulted with Nate Boyer, I believe is his name. He was a former Army Green Beret. And,
That's right.
They talked it out, and Nate Boyer, he didn't really kind of like the idea of it, but, he tried to bring attention to what he wanted people to focus on, but still be respectful. And it was definitely, I was in Operation Desert Storm, also over in Somalia, Operation Restore Hope. I was not offended by it at all. That's what we took an oath for, was to defend the Constitution of the United States, especially the First Amendment. I think it was, I think it was a respectful way to get his point out there. And with that, I'll go ahead and drop facts. It was good to talk to you again. I just wanted to bring that up, that, that was thought out. That wasn't, he actually went out of his way to do it in a way to still be respectful. And I respect you for that.
Me too, Gregory. I appreciate you saying that, brother. Thank you for your service, bro. Good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Be good. I appreciate that those sincere conversations, because he's right. I think Nate Boyer, that's exactly right. They consulted, and I think, if memory serves, that Nate Boyer was present for one of the early times that Kaepernick did that. I might be wrong about that. I'll have to fact check it, but that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it shouldn't be a divisive issue. And I'm glad that Anthony spoke up, and I'm glad that Gregory just talked about it. People don't take an oath to the flag. You take an oath to the Constitution, and you called that out really, really well, Nemo. Yeah. That's what people are defending. They're defending the rights of people to do exactly what he did.
Yeah, I mean
that's the point.
This also, if you just look at not even that long ago history, the case, it's Des Moines versus I can't remember, but it's Des Moines. It was the kids who were protesting the Vietnam War, and they got in trouble over it. I think that they put the flag on the back side of their pants or something like that, and so they sat on it. But there's examples all throughout not that long ago history in America of people using the flag as a form of protest, or doing things to the flag as a form of protest for various things. Like, this was about police brutality, but or police in general, but in the past, it's been used to protest the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, all of our excursions in different parts of the world. So it's not really that crazy to, see it done in this context, right? And in all cases, it's freedom of speech.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the point, right? I mean, that's the opportunity for people to miss it again. But we know that the point of this meme is that people are incredibly offended by it. But
Yeah.
CK1, good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm good, Pax. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you. What's on your mind?
No, yeah, I just wanted to chime in on the whole Kaepernick thing. Another thing with Nate Boyer is that, remember, Kaepernick, he never stood. He didn't even stand the first time he protested. He just sat. Once Nate Boyer reached out to him,
Oh,
he's
right.
he's the one that suggested, hey, once he had kind of like what you said, we need to have these conversations, right? Civilly. So he reached out. Kaepernick said, hey, I want to talk to this guy. They got together. Once Kaepernick explained why he was protesting, the reason why he didn't stand up, Nate Boyer said, why don't you kneel instead, like we do for fallen soldiers,
Hmm.
right? That's where that came about. And this is the words of Nate Boyer. He said that. Not me, it's not my opinion. There's interviews, you can look them up. And he actually said that in an interview. I suggested, why don't you kneel instead of just sitting? And Kaepernick said, you know what? I'll do that if you, will you sit there, will you kneel with me? Nate Boyer said, I'll stand next to you. And he did. He stood right next to him the first time, I believe it was the first time that Kaepernick actually kneeled. So,
I remember that now, CK. I remember that story about how um, Nate Boyer actually reached out because of what he saw. And like you said, they
right,
had that conversation about if you want to do this the right way, you want to still show respect and make your point, kneel, because that's what we do. I'm glad you
right.
brought that up because that's a really important piece that kind of gets lost in this discussion. Because, and like you said, it's not about the flag, it's about the oath and it's about the Constitution.
Right.
So that's a really good piece of context there, bro. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to say that. That was all I want. I just wanted to add that on to that because there's a lot of context to it. And people just the MAGAs just you know they see what they want to see.
Yeah, you're right, bro. I appreciate that. It's been a while. Don't be so long next time.
All right, brother.
Thank you, buddy. See you
Thank you
later.
for having me. Yep.
You got it, man. Be well.
One other thing about this topic is the the way that that Trump supporters always approach it. The angle that they use is that it's an insult to uh, service members and veterans who fought or lost their lives in the name of the flag. That's the argumentation that they always use, um, and obviously there's tons of service members and veterans who will gladly say, this wasn't it didn't insult me. Felt bad that he had to do it because state of affairs, but it's not an insult.
Right.
But even then, you can also if Trump supporters want to use that line of logic of this is an insult to soldiers and veterans, that is bad. Okay, cool. Donald Trump has insulted veterans and service members repeatedly,
Right.
and you're going to vote for him. That's like, you don't even have to vote for Kaepernick, right? Like, that's the difference. You can just disagree with Kaepernick and move on with your day. But in the case of Donald Trump, if this is genuinely such a sin, such a grave crime, what Kaepernick is doing, Donald Trump has gone much further than kneeling, right? When it comes to insulting, like, service members, right?
Suckers and losers.
Yeah. John McCain, all the things that he said about John McCain, which, I mean, what's crazy is a lot of Trump supporters are fine with that, even though it's not about you having to like John McCain. It's about the fact he was making fun of John McCain being a prisoner of war for years on end and losing the ability to lift his arms. But they just skip over that point. But, John McCain, Gold Star families, losers and suckers, like, yeah. And he's a draft dodger, so there's that.
Didn't he say that? I think there was a story, Mark Milley, they brought a wounded vet, disabled vet to a speech or a rally, and Trump pulled Milley aside afterwards and say, please don't bring, why'd you bring him here? People don't want to see that. It doesn't make me look good. Or going with one of his chiefs, I think it was John Kelly. John Kelly's son died in service to our country. He was buried overseas. Trump went to that cemetery and said, "I don't get it. What's in it for them?" Or
Yep.
not wanting to go to the battlefield in Europe because the rain, didn't want to get his hair wet.
Yep.
So to your point, and I'm glad you said that, Nemo, the fact that if you think this is offensive and disrespects the military, and yet you'll still vote for Trump, the same guy that had, secret information about our battle plans and all that kind of shit. So if you want to have a sincere conversation, then have it. But, your safe space is not about defending or dissing on Colin Kaepernick for literally expressing his constitutionally protected rights.
Yep.
Well said, bro. Well said. All right, let's keep bringing folks up here. Continue to like and share, guys. Really appreciate that. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, mods. You guys are killing it. Hi, Kelly. How are you tonight? Kelly?
Not so sure. Okay, devil's advocate.
Kelly Westcott?
That's the name we're looking for. Someone who's close
Kelly. Kelly?
your letters and someone who's
Okay. I think Kelly must have gotten a call or something. Nikki, you need to. I have a mod announcement apparently. Hello. How you doing?
Good.
Drinking your water?
Saying some kind about myself? No, I haven't. Not at all.
You should.
I will. I promise. I don't drink, but I might start. Everybody down in the chat, let me make it perfectly clear. No, I am not a veteran, but if I see you disrespecting any veterans, John McCain, Anthony, I don't know if Nemo's a vet. Nemo, if you're a vet. Not Nemo. Okay. Any veteran, I don't care what side they're on. This is the same thing I said to you before. Don't care what side they're on. Do I agree with McCain? No. Is he a war hero? Absolutely. And if I see you disrespecting a veteran, not only will I mute you, I'll boot your ass. Got it?
This is spicy, Nikki, tonight.
I was taught very early on to respect my elders and this and that, but you never ever will I disrespect a veteran. Whether or not I agree with their politics or not, that person put their life on the line, so I have the right to vote. So you asshats in the chat who think you're going to get away with saying that John McCain is a traitor while you are voting for Dr. Bone Spurs, who is a draft-dodging piece of crap. You're pushing the wrong person.
Thank you, friend.
Okay,
Appreciate
love
you.
you guys.
See you later.
I'm going to get you. Bye.
Bye. Again, a valid point. I mean, we have this conversation all the time about, this patriot mantra or tag that they like to hang over themselves, and yet you claim that you support veterans, you claim that you support law enforcement, you claim that you support whatever it might be, and yet you beat up Capitol police officers, you beat up, anybody that's trying to defend the rights of civilians and citizens. You support a man who's called, Nemo and I just ran down the list, suckers and losers, the whole 9 yards. So make up your mind, MAGA. Well, we know that you're not patriots. We know that. I mean, you might find it refreshing if you just admitted it yourself. So then you could move on with the reparations to your own soul, because it's pretty sad that you really want to put yourself in that position. It's pretty embarrassing. You should be thoroughly embarrassed.
Yeah.
Thoroughly embarrassed.
One thing that I saw this come up in the chat a couple times, just to clarify, the red cups, because I know not everybody might know what that's about. So just basic. Starbucks has always done like Christmas cups every like holiday season or whatever. And recently, I don't know when, they did red cups for Christmas. And that pissed off a bunch of Trump supporters because they thought it's a war on Christmas or something. It's the thing that Fox News always trots out. Oh my God, they're taking away Christmas because we're a Christian nation. No, we're not. But
We're not.
That's what that is.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Camouflage. Good evening. How are you tonight?
Can you hear me? I'm not sure. I'm on my old phone.
We got you.
Oh,
Loud
okay.
and clear.
So I have two things.
Okay.
One is about the flag. What say the people who replaced the American flag and put Trump's flag in the U.S. Capitol, but they're okay. But they're not okay with someone politely putting their knees down or taking a knee during an anthem. They're saying that that's disrespectful. However, it was totally okay to replace the American flag with Trump's flag. I don't. I'm confused.
It's a really good point. Really good point. Or putting Trump's face on flags or whatever that might be, right?
Exactly.
You're talking about respecting the flag, right? It's a really good point.
Right. The hypocrisy is it's killing me. But that's all I want
Indeed.
to say.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Appreciate you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, you pull down the American flag at the Capitol and you hoist the Trump flag? MAGA. Wow.
Yeah. Also, the amount of stuff that I learn about Texas. So apparently there's a Pledge of Allegiance to the Texas flag or something. I didn't know this. I never grew up in Texas, but they do that, and I think that in Texas they fly the Texans flag, the state flag, the same height as the American flag. That's a thing in Texas. I
Do they really?
Apparently this is a thing. Black Magic says no, we don't. Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Somebody says you do that or you don't do
Wait,
that.
Black Magic just says we do that.
That's
Clarify.
really weird. That's very strange. Political Mom requested, so she might have some context for us. Hello.
Hey, let me help out with this. So not only do we keep it at the same height, but we also put the Texas flag first. So like if you're driving down either side of the freeway, the Texas flag goes first, no matter which direction you're heading.
So is it on both sides?
Yes,
of the
but
American
it's always first before the American flag. Like there will be separate poles, but it will always be first. And my kids pledge allegiance to the state of Texas every day at school. It's a requirement.
Wow. It's a requirement?
It's a requirement that they do that before the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, I think if you Google the pledge, it will pop up for you on what it is.
I pledge allegiance to good barbecue and razor wire in the river.
I wish.
Right.
So it's required.
It's required.
Have you talked to your kids about that? Like, do you want
They
them
just
to
think
do
it's a silly song. Like they don't understand why they're doing it. There's no explanation for it. They just do it right before they do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Well, Texas forever, apparently.
That's messed up.
Damn, that's messed up, man. Wow.
It's a really
Holy
ridiculous
shit.
song. I think my kids sung it once for me. I'll have to pull it up. When I find it, I'll tag it for you guys.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks a lot, Chelsea.
Okay. Have a good night, guys.
Later. See you later. Bye. Holy shit.
Nikki was asking me to explain that we're not a Christian nation. I saw somebody had clarified or had mentioned that we're mostly Christian. So like most people in America are Christian, like 60 something percent. That is accurate, but the nuance there is that the majority of people in a country can be a thing, but that country is not that thing. Does that make sense? So, the majority of people in the United States can be Christian, but that does not make the United States a Christian nation, right?
Correct.
Our country was not founded on Christian principles. Our founders were predominantly not Christian. So a lot of the founding fathers were either deists or they were atheists. Like that's the overwhelming majority. In the case of George Washington, he was a Mason, but whatever. Basically a deist. And they all. I have a nice little collection of quotes from all the notable founding fathers that completely just they don't like Christianity at all. They don't like religion, which that was kind of their thing. Is that I can provide quotes from every single one of them. Saying that religion's bad or Christianity's bad. I can also provide a quote from Abraham Lincoln, the party of Lincoln. I can give you a quote from him saying that the Bible is bad or that Christianity's bad. So The fact is, we're not a Christian nation. That's
very true. I mean, the First Amendment's Establishment Clause prohibits the government from making any law respecting an establishment of religion. This clause not only forbids the government from establishing an official religion, but also prohibits government actions that unduly favor one religion over another. It also provides the government from unduly preferring religion over non-religion or non-religion over religion. It's in the Constitution, literally.
Yep.
It's the first part of the First Amendment. That's why, because if you think about, as Neilma described it, if you think about the history of our founding of our nation, one of the reasons they left England was because of religious persecution. So when you want to set up a new kind of thing, you might want to say, you know what? Everybody can believe whatever the hell they want or not. So we're not a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nima. That was a great breakdown. Diva has a question. Thank you all, friends. Appreciate y'all. Continue to like and share. Hello, Diva.
Hi. I just wanted to say a couple things. I remember, or the thing with, pardon me?
I said, please do.
Yeah. With Kaepernick, I just wanted to say one thing about Kaepernick real quick. When he took a knee, they were like, it's okay to protest, just not that way. Like, they didn't like it that way. So then when the BLM protests come up, because there's still police brutality, they're like, we don't like you, we don't mind you protesting, but not that way. So no matter which way they ever protest, it's not okay.
Or we don't want you, we don't mind if you come to America, we just don't want you coming that way.
Correct. And exactly. It's just that it no matter which way they're trying to protest the police brutality and the things that they've been going under for the last 400 years in this country, they always say, well, not that way. So no matter which way, whether they're peaceful, whether they're out loud, no matter which way they're doing it, they're told that it's not the right way.
That's a really good perspective. You're right. I think because language matters, right? Diva, we talked about this before. There's a common thread that you can draw. If it's not our way, we don't want it that way, right? Like,
correct.
I don't want you to. You can't protest that way. You can't come to the country that way. You can't pray that way. You can't make bodily autonomy choices that way. It's just it's a theme. I'm going to remember that. Good call out.
That's exactly what it is. And then I just wanted to say one other thing. If you want to look it up, but the Customs and Border Patrol, the cbp.gov, just put out their January 2024 monthly update. And I just wanted to share a couple things with you real quick because I thought it was really interesting. It said the southwest border encounters between ports of entry, so this is not ports of entry, between ports of entry have dropped by 50% in January.
There you go.
And then it says CBP remains in the front line and in preventing fentanyl and other dangerous drugs from entering our country. The chair moved. Enforcing our nation's laws and interdicting, which I'm assuming is interdicting 34% more fentanyl and 68% more cocaine than the previous month. Just in January.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and then it says the last point I wanted to make. It also says that since May 12 of 2023 to January 31st, 2024, DHS has removed or returned over 520,000 individuals, of whom crossed through the southwest border. It says the total removals and returns since mid-May exceed removals and returns in every full fiscal year since 2013. That's
seems like
12 years.
Seems like the Biden administration is doing a pretty damn good job on border security.
Yeah, and then they just impeached Mayorkas today.
Yeah,
for not doing anything about the border.
Right.
It's ridiculous. You guys can hear my dog snoring next to me.
That's what we can hear. Your dog snoring. Yes. I thought it was mine. I'm looking around. I'm like, he's not in here. That's funny.
I just saw the comment. Someone said, "Is that your dog?" Because my phone is laying on the couch right next to my dog because I have my headphones on, so I didn't realize it was that close.
That's really funny.
Okay, that's funny.
But thank you for those that bit of a factual breakdown, Diva. We appreciate that. Diva's one of my mod guys. She's said hearts in the chat for Diva because she along with Nikki and Francis and the whole crew and Cookie and Peter and I've said this a million times. I have the best mods. Thank you for your work tonight. Really appreciate you.
Of course, thank you. And thanks for letting me up. I just wanted to bring up a little bit of truth about the whole not that way kind of thing, and then the Border Patrol, especially in light of Mayorkas being. So that's how we know it's all performative. It's all performative BS.
Yep.
Of removing Mayorkas when he's literally, they said he's had the less than every single year since 2013. So we're doing something right. The hysteria for the border is just hysteria. That's all it is. It's not factual.
Exactly right. That's exactly right, Brad. Good call out. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good night.
Later. Bye.
Wolf said that none of the founding fathers were deists or atheists.
Jefferson was a deist.
Yeah, big time. Jefferson was probably one of the most hardcore out of all of them. But Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Paine, James Madison, John Adams, George Washington, as I said, he's a little bit kind of on that one, but the rest of them are pretty straightforward on the whole deism thing. They were all highly critical of religion and Christianity. Thomas Jefferson went so far as to create what's referred to as the Jefferson Bible because he was really bored one time, and he took the Bible and he cut up pieces of it. He just cut out all the moral stuff, and that was his new Bible. All the supernatural, spiritual stuff he took out. That's called the Jefferson Bible, and you can look that up. But yeah, I mean, as far as quotes, somebody brought the Treaty of Tripoli, that really just dismantles the entire idea of the United States being a Christian nation, because the Treaty of Tripoli, which was one of the first treaties that we formally signed, it was started under George Washington, signed by John Adams, the second president. And, there's one piece in it, and I won't read the whole thing, but it's, as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. That's in the Treaty of Tripoli. So, formal document, drafted, approved by Congress, signed by the president, founding father. Like, it doesn't get more clear than that.
Facts are hard. What's up, Whisper? How you doing, man?
Not bad. How are you doing today, Fax?
Very well. What's on your mind tonight, sir?
Well, I come bearing bad news. So I was listening to y'all's conversation with Country Boy, and one of the things that came up was pew control and what either side is doing about it and things like that. And in the spirit of being, it's not really bad news, but in the spirit of being honest, we do have to talk about the fact that, yes, in fact, the Biden administration, at least the House, has passed H.R. 1808, which is an assault weapons ban. It's actually labeled the assault weapons ban of 2022.
Yeah.
So that is happening, and so we have to be honest about those situations. We have to be honest about what each side is doing. And
totally agree. Has it been signed into law, though?
It is not. It's passed the House. The Senate has. So the current action on it is to be seen. So it was passed and agreed in the House, and the passage was passed 217 to 213, and that was on 7/29 of 2022. And the next action, as of now, is it's been called twice. One to correct, and then the next call looks like it's going to be happening sometime this month. It's going to be called again to the Senate, and it's already been referred. It's already been to the committee on the judiciary. It's already been approved there, and so it looks like they're going to be hearing it again sometime this month or next month, and there's a good chance it will pass.
Well, I hope it does pass. I really do. Although this was a bill that was introduced in the 117th Congress.
Correct.
So is there a new one?
No, it's just been ongoing. This is from.
It doesn't work that way, though. You have to reintroduce a bill. But if legislation doesn't move through and it's not been approved by both sides, they have to reintroduce it. So is there a 118th Congress edition?
Yes, so it was already referred. So that's what we're talking about. Is it was referred on 8/1, and it's been that was the next action is to be read again. It's being reintroduced into the Senate now. It's still past the House.
8/1/2022 though.
Correct.
Right. So it's because the Congress ended, any legislation that's still for review has to start over. So that's what I'm asking. Is there a new version?
Even if it was referred to the Committee on the Judiciary, I thought it would still move forward at that point.
It can't though, because the new Congress have to change the rules the way. Anytime there's a bill that is sort of the term is kind of referred to. That's where that term comes from. So unless it passes through the entire House for a vote and it doesn't receive any action in the Senate, then they have to reintroduce the legislation under the new Congress. So
Okay.
I hope it passes. It's great. I hope it passes, but they have to reintroduce it because it's labeled the 117th Congress. That's kind of the point. I hope it passes. Hope it does.
This one, so I thought that it was just a copy and paste of the 94 ban, which the 94 ban,
Well, this one has some labeling issues. This one has some naming issues that I disagree with quite frankly.
Yeah.
I don't like the way they're going about it. I don't disagree. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily disagree with the change in pew control, but I do want to do it under common language. The fact that they're using new language and introducing new language and introducing new ways of pushing this through bothers me. One of the common things they're using is LCAFD. LCAFD, for those of you that didn't get what that is, that's called a large ammunition feeding device. This is not a plain language bill, and it's also leaving room for workarounds, which is also I don't like. This also prohibits any sale, period, any. So this actually affects. It looks on the surface like it would also impact Class 3 holders as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's passed the House, but again, because any legislation that doesn't get signed into law, if you want to reintroduce it, it's got to start with a new Congress because you have to reintroduce rules as to how bills are introduced. So it's technically it's nowhere unless they reintroduce it.
Okay, that makes sense. I thought the referendum, the referral to the committee bypassed that. That's what I understood, and maybe I'm wrong on that. Parliamentary procedure is not my first language.
Yeah, so technically speaking, a bill that's introduced in the 117th or 116th Congress has to complete a cycle. It has to go to the Senate. The Senate has to vote on it or push it back, and if it doesn't pass in both chambers, therefore it can't get signed into law. It has to start from scratch again. So this bill was introduced by the Democratic-led 117th Congress, but it didn't go anywhere through the Senate. So therefore, it's got to come back again to the House and then be reintroduced, relabeled, and then the process has to start all over again.
10-4. That makes more sense then.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree with some of the language. I don't know enough about it, but sign me up for an assault at the core. Sign me up.
It doesn't bother me too much. Like I said, I'm an owner.
Me too.
Like I said, it doesn't. That's the thing is, it doesn't bother me. But what does bother me is one of the things that we have to understand when we start talking about these specific bills. And I outlined this. I'm not sure. Did you get that document that I sent over to you? Did
you ever send it to me?
Yeah, Anthony was supposed to share it with you.
I haven't gotten it.
I shared it with Anthony, and he said he was going to give me your email because I lost your email. It was on one of your other accounts, and I can't find it anymore.
Oh, okay. I'll ask him. I'll just pick my email again. No big deal. But I'll ask him about it.
Yeah. So I've got the document laid out, and one of the things that we needed to make sure of is, in particular, when we're talking about an amendment, or when we're talking about something that has a direct effect on an amendment, so to speak. It should be more plain language, and it should close any loopholes. Relabeling a magazine as an LCAFD is really weird. That's a really strange way to go about it. And then relabeling a semi-automatic assault weapon as a SAW. That's also a very strange way of labeling this. It needs to be plain language because this when you introduce language that's vague or introduce language that doesn't quite cover everything, because technically under this new one, I can still have a semi-automatic rifle as long as it doesn't fit the components of an assault weapon, which I can do
So,
much damage with. Let's be clear about that, right?
so you can look up, if you want a whisper, you can look up HR 698, which is a revised version of the one you were just referring to. That's the one that's active in the 118th Congress.
Oh, it is active. Okay.
Yeah, but it's been introduced. It hasn't been passed. It's probably not going to.
It's a copy and paste.
It's probably not going to get a vote because, again, it's the majority is the Republican Party currently. So it's been introduced, and it was introduced June 5th of last year.
Yep.
Same guy introduced it, David Cicilline, who was a rep from Rhode Island.
Yep.
But that's kind of my point, that you kind of have to start from scratch if it doesn't go through the entire making that is our Congress.
Makes sense, and that just refers to the actions of the preliminary and administrative actions that they went through on the previous one to correct spelling and all that. It makes it skip all those steps at this point. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. Still, language though. You're right. We have to be more specific. Everything is too vague. This is why people don't want to read legislation.
Exactly. This is what I don't like about it. Like this is really weird. And one of the ones about this is if you look at Section 4 under the Prohibition, only capable of firing rimfire ammunition. Like a lot of people may not understand that, right? A lot of people may not understand what that means. A lot of people may not care what that means, but I care because I know something a lot of other people don't know. 5.56 can be rimfired.
What's rim fired?
Rim fired is common in in 22s, small caliber. It's
okay.
Back of the round. It's a instead of having a singular blasting cap,
it's a tap. It's just the rim.
It's just it just taps the end. Right? But there's 5.56 ammo out there that is rim fire, and so this once again this leaves a loophole. And I'm all for common sense. Common sense means that you speak in plain language. You understand what you're pushing forward. It feels like there's a lot of people in Congress specifically that have very little understanding at all about firearms. And that's dangerous when you're introducing legislation because it leaves big, giant, gaping holes. And
yeah, I mean, sometimes I wish we could avoid being too specific, quite frankly. Like, for example, I've talked about things, and I've talked about this many times, about the overwhelming majority of Americans support universal background checks, 87%. 81% support enforcing existing laws. Raise the legal age to 21, 81%. 80% support mental health checks prior to purchase. Flag people a danger to themselves, 80%. And a 30-day waiting period, 77%. So I think we spend too much time on the specifics and not enough time on things that we can get consensus on.
And that's
those types of things.
That's ultimately my point. We had this conversation before about those specific questions. I laid those questions out as a whole. And once again, we have this weird issue to where we want to go into technicalities on an assault weapons ban, but we don't want to introduce pew legislation that goes across the board. That's really strange to me. It's a weird way to go about this because once again, the clearly the understanding and the operation of these apparatuses is lacking. But what we can understand is, hey, a 30-day waiting period for every single one, no matter what, that's easy. Red flag laws for every single one, no matter what, that's easy.
Easy. Totally.
Universal
universal state-to-state background checks for every state across the country.
Simple.
Easy.
And this is once again why I have issues on this particular subject, because once again, we do see a clear action, and this is one of the biggest beasts with the left. It really is. I'm voting left, I'm voting Democrat, but this is the one thing that bothers me the most, is that they know this. Guys, argue with me, like we could have a pissing match all day long, but we know for a fact that the Democrats currently in this current action understand the basic language that we're talking about in common sense, and yet they want to avoid that and go straight to an assault weapons ban. It blows my mind.
I don't agree with that necessarily. I mean, you have to think about what you're up against. You're up against a lobby, a powerful lobby in the NRA that's not going to allow the Republicans in Congress to do anything about infringing upon rights. So you got to take what you can get. Yeah. You got to take what you can get. That's if you had a 15, 20, 30 30-seat majority in the House? Sure.
Yeah.
Not when the margins are as slim as they are.
I don't know. That's why this feels like you said. I hope it passes. I wouldn't mind it passing. You know, we can look at the data. Look at the assault weapon ban of '94. Guess what we saw go down significantly. The stats don't lie. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
Stats do not lie.
Exactly.
And if we're ever going to use
Exactly.
stats, we have to. But I feel in this current climate, this type of bill is DOA, because once again, it's noting on specifics, it's noting on a ban versus noting on what would really truly take effect. They just don't want to admit that. They just don't want to have the battle of mental health and allowing a universal across states, and it's a weird thing. I don't know. It bothers me, but I just want to
again, I would push back a little bit to say that the Dems don't want to have that battle. I disagree. I mean, I think the Dems want to have that battle, but the problem is, to your point, when you introduce legislation like this, people focus on ban.
Yeah.
And it distracts them from reasonable, responsible pew control of the things we talked about, universal background check, shit like that. So I think that's the issue. But for the most part, we agree on that, brother. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You guys have a good one. I just want to bring that up, and this is happening now, and so we're going to be honest about Second Amendment stuff. It's everybody at this point. It's going to be the next administration too, whether it's Republican or Democratic. It's going to be the same for the next probably 8 to 10 years before something happens. Let's be realistic.
You're right. Good call.
All right.
Thank
You
you,
guys have a good one.
Talk to you.
Time for a couple more here. Let's see here. I'm going to bring up Cookie, and she wants to say hello. Hello.
Oh, hello. Honey, can you mute that? I did not mean to request. Did I request?
You did.
I am so sorry.
All right. Don't apologize. Another awesome mod. Appreciate you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. You have a great night.
You too. Bye. I'll bring up Dave, and I'll bring up Luis. He's been waiting a long time. My apologies, Luis. I'm sorry, bro. My apologies.
You are totally fine, but how are you guys doing today?
Very, very well. How are you?
Well, fighting the good battle, remaining positive in spite of, what's going on. But I did want to pitch into what you guys were talking about. I think a lot of people who support MAGA are very blinded by the truth. And I do think that it's embarrassing how, for them, their excuse is, oh, well, under Trump, there was a good economy. He gave us the stimulus check. He improved relationships with Russia. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to tell me you justify that, yet this man poorly handled the pandemic. I lost a family member to the pandemic. You know how difficult that was? Second, don't get me started about January 6th, because we all know what went down there, and it was not pleasant what happened. A cop died. An officer died protecting so many senators' lives, some of them which I don't like at all whatsoever. Not a problem. A cop died. How do you justify that? How? Like, you can't justify that. And then, how do you make fun of veterans and soldiers who put their lives on the line by calling them suckers and losers? You don't say that. Those are people that put their lives on the line, and some of them, they don't come back. You know how difficult that must be for, like, family? And I think the biggest thing that people, don't want to accept is they know that he's a fraud. He doesn't care about anybody but himself. And it's embarrassing that no matter what you tell them, they just keep on buying into it, like a snake oilsman, like a snake oil salesman, my bad. But I just find it mind-boggling. It's so embarrassing, and it's ridiculous. Like, I hate to say it.
No, you're right, Luis. I mean, we bang into this all the time, and I think that's the frustration for me. It's the constant pivot, it's the constant deflection. We can use the Eugene Carroll case as a perfect example about how, because it was a civil settlement, for some reason that it didn't happen, or some of the awful things that Trump supporters have said about her, or the fact that there's no evidence connecting Joe Biden to any crimes.
and yet they haven't read the indictment, so they have no idea what Trump's even been charged with. But of course, then the justice system is rigged against him.
It is.
Which is exactly the point. I mean, that's the frustration. At least for me, I won't speak for you guys, but that's the frustration for me.
No, 100%. But I'm also gonna make I'm gonna make a comparison. Look what happened in Brazil after the election of 2022 when Lula won. What did Jair Bolsonaro do? He literally did the same thing that Trump did in January 6th.
Right.
And they stormed. Did they actually get in to Brazil's capital?
Brasilia, I do not know, but I do know that some of my friends that are from Brazil, they witnessed it happen. So I'd have to get more information in it, but that's, that was basically like, January 6th. And what I find so, it makes me feel ashamed of living here in the US. How is it that a country like Brazil can handle corruption better than we can when someone like Bolsonaro, he can't run for president for what, 8 years?
I think so. Yeah.
And then on top of that, he's on the run. He's on the run. He knows that he's gonna get caught sooner or later, and people are like,
he's in Florida. I think he's in Florida.
Yeah, he was in Florida, or he was in Florida during the when they stormed the Capitol in Brazil. I don't know. Is he still there?
I don't know, but he's in pretty hot water. Like, he knows that what he did was wrong, and I mean, it just makes me wonder. Like, look at the comparison. Look at how they know what they're doing, and then look what's going on here. We know Trump is evil. We know that this guy, the moment he came in, he built his entire campaign based on hate. It's the truth is in the pudding. You can't ignore that. And I just find it embarrassing how people, they still defend him. They still say, oh, well, he's not really that bad. It's like, no, he's not. Like, he's not a good choice, but you're still justifying him. But I just think that for the election, Biden definitely has to step up his if he really wants to beat Trump, he has to step up his game. He has to, work really hard, because I can tell you right now, I have a feeling that Nikki Haley is going to drop out soon. That's just me. But
yep. And don't you find it interesting, Luis, that she's been railing on Trump the entire time during the primary season, calling him unfit to office, but when pressed, would she vote for him? She deflected.
There you go. And that's the thing that I also wanted to bring up with. I don't want to take a lot of time because, this is your live and I want to respect y'all too, is you notice how every person that ran for the primaries in the Republican Party, they dropped out and they endorsed Trump.
Except for, or are you talking about this primary?
Yes, this primary.
Christie did not.
Okay, Christie did not. Okay, that's a good correction.
And also, I think that Chris Christie was asked if he would vote for Donald Trump if he were the nominee, and he said no.
No, Asa Hutchinson too. I think he said the same. I think he said he wouldn't support him either. But for the most part, they're all lapdogs, no doubt.
Yeah, they are. And sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. To be clear, Christie did endorse Trump in 2016 because I think that Christie was kind of thinking he was about to be a VP. So he was Team Trump back then, but now Christie is not that. I mean, Chris Christie's policy positions are still, standard Republican, so I don't really like them. But out of all the people on that stage, he was one of the most reasonable, which is sad.
Agreed. And did Christie work in the administration briefly, or work on the campaign, or something like that? So it was more than just his endorsement. He actually worked for the guy.
I think he did, but I just find that embarrassing. We're talking about people that, I'm going to go back to 2016. I just find it embarrassing how many of those candidates, they stood by him, supported him, and they just defended him. Like, look at Ted Cruz. He was a very vocal critic of him in the very beginning. And then for Trump to disrespect his wife, and then for him to become a bootlicker, it's just embarrassing. Marco Rubio, Ben Carson, the list goes on, but I just find it embarrassing when people, Like, how can you justify someone like him? He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about me. He only cares about himself. Like you can't ignore that. But I just think that, people are very misinformed. And the one thing that always frustrates me is when you have people like Tucker Carlson, Jesse Waters from Fox News, by the way, people like them supporting Trump, like all those people supporting Trump, Newsmax, justifying and making him seem like, he's a god, but no, he's not. Look what he's being charged of. Look what he's done to this country. Like, it doesn't make sense.
You're right. I mean, I've always thought that the reason that he has become so fervently popular and there's that cult behavior is because his supporters, we've always known that this hatred is bubbled beneath the surface of the country. We always know it's been white supremacist and bigoted and racism. We know all these things have existed, and because Trump is so outward about it, it kind of gave them cover. Like, if the president of the United States can be all these things and say all these horrible things, then I can too.
And they kind of think that they can get a free pass. Like, for example, look at all the rioters on January 6th. They think they could just get away with what they did, but no, you can't. You stormed into a building. You thought the election was stolen, which it wasn't, by the way. You thought that, well, you know what? I'm not getting what I want. Let me just go ahead and throw a fit by assaulting an officer, breaking a building, stealing things that don't even belong to you. Like, you can't, you possibly can't justify that and make it seem like, yeah, we didn't do anything wrong. Like, no, you can't justify that. It's just childish behavior. But other than that, that's all, I wanted to express. But, you guys just keep doing the good fight. If people bring in misinformation, prove them wrong, and most of all, you guys be safe and have a great day. Thank you.
Please, appreciate you, brother. Very much. I'm going to wrap up. Nemo, anything you'd like to land the plane with, my friend? You can have the floor. Whatever's on your mind.
BBH had mentioned something about $170 billion being sent to Ukraine, and then pulled out this little gem that we always hear. Why can we send $170 billion to Ukraine, but we can't, house homeless vets or give them health care, help the elderly? The answer is because of the Republicans. The Republicans have voted down any attempt to do that. They voted down the PACT Act the first time, and then when the entire nation saw that, and thankfully Jon Stewart threw his weight behind it, then they were shamed into finally voting the PACT Act, which is healthcare for veterans. It expands healthcare for veterans. That is a good thing. But the Republicans originally had voted it down. As far as housing people, I can guarantee you that the guy who is literally saying that he wants to take unhoused people and put them in tent cities, he's not going to house homeless vets. He's not going to help them, right? The fact is, if you want healthcare for homeless vets, if you want healthcare for elderly people and you want to help them, then you need to be voting Democrat, because that's the only party that has proposed anything to help those groups. So, yeah. But unfortunately, they only trot out that point when they only bring out the homeless vets or they only bring up veterans whenever they're trying to make a political point, and they forget about them the second that they have made that point. They go back to forgetting about them. And they always want to bust it out whenever, why are we spending money here? Why can't we just help veterans? We can do both. But your party doesn't want to help.
Well said, brother. Appreciate you joining tonight. Thanks for jumping in last minute. I appreciate that. Hope it was worth your while. Thank you, mods, for an exceptional evening. I really appreciate that. You guys did a great job. We knew coming into tonight it could get a little bit weird just because of the amount of people that have been trying to take down lives, but I thank my mods for that. Thank you all very, very much. I mentioned earlier taking tomorrow night off. I'm taking my Valentine with my daughter out to dinner tomorrow night. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday. If you are not yet registered to vote, and why, go to your state Secretary of State's website. Information there as to where your polling locations are, when the hours are, when you can early vote, all those kinds of things. Remember, democracy is a spectator sport, and everybody needs to participate. We learned last night that 95% of Australians vote because it's mandatory in their country. And it's a damn cool thing. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Thank you, friends, very, very much. Thank you again, mods. You guys have a great night. Happy Valentine's Day. We'll see you Thursday. Thanks, Nemo. Appreciate you, buddy.